internet. Good morning. Oh, and look at that. Look at that. Just like that, eyeglasses fails and there's no camera. Even though it was all set up, I knew it was too good to be true that I could actually come on and make it look like I had it set up. Oh, it was too good to be true. Someone tell me, someone answer my prayers someday about a replacement for eyeglasses that lets me turn off focus control on webcams. Oh my goodness. Okay, good morning. Here I am. So here's my story. Aside from now that camera looks way worse than I thought it was going to. Yay. Here's my story. I moved this week. It was so cool. I am so very excited that I have now put down roots in the 815. Around here, they say 815 till I die. As a pastor in the Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod, we're not supposed to say that, but the view outside my window tickles my little heartstrings. And this parish that I've been serving here continues to be such a blessing to both me and to those around. And the more that we see the need for a steadfast, proclamation, heralding, talking, virtue signaling of the right virtues, the more that I see the need for that and this parish willing to do that, the more that I love being here. So moving into the 42 forever world that I'm now living in here in Rockford, 815, that's been intense, right? So like Tuesday, buy house. Right, which was 3 months in coming and work. And if you've ever gone through that, you know it's not like buying a car, which is easy. The final sign day, Tuesday, sign, right? I'm a child, so I want to sleep in the house tonight. And we're only 2 blocks away because it's just 2 blocks away. And so my wife agrees. And so we're going to get all the mattresses to the house tonight. We did it. Okay, we're there. We sleep. And the next day, we have that day to do kitchen and bathrooms, and we're going to clean. This house has been the same owner for 42 years. And so, a lot of cleaning, and there's some stuff we got to kind of move around a little bit, and we're thinking about some renovations, and we're talking and all this kind of stuff. Right? That's Wednesday. But we're there. And my office is my studio, my whatever, right? This space here is boxes, nothing but, and some furniture. Thursday, we have some real good friends come in from out of town. You might know Pastor Kuntz, Dr. Kuntz. I interview him sometimes, podcasts, whatnot. So they come into town. We spend most of the day with them. Okay, that's done. So I had yesterday to turn this absolute nothing into, at the very least, the semblance of a studio. But as you probably know from your own living experience, you have this thing that you could probably do in 5 to 45 minutes. But there's these other things that are really weighing on your psyche, and so you got to do them. Like messes, right? So no matter how pressing the work is, if you happen to throw up on yourself, you're probably going to stop the work and go deal with that. Okay. Well, thankfully that didn't happen during any of that work yesterday. It only happened last night while I was sleeping. Yeah, really. So then I threw up last night. And I have no idea why. We've been making this really cool keto egg pizza, and I may have OD'd on eggs. I used to have an egg intolerance. Carnivore kind of fixed that for me. I eat eggs all the time now, but maybe it was too much. I like these new mushroom things I get from Costco. Maybe that was it. I don't know. But wow, that was not fun. But then I still got up. And I got here, and this was the planned opening, which is that this is going to be the most chill Saturday morning chill ever, because there is literally no plan except for what others have given me that I will now use to try to entertain you and also continue that relationship of theological grab back, right, that we got going on here. My goodness. So I haven't even looked at the chats over there since I got thrown off by the camera not working. So today's show is as chill as it's going to get. I mean, there really is no planning and prep. It's not going to be nearly as up as last week's. In fact, why don't we just show you right now? Commentary from last week says, look, no camera. I can't even fix that right now. Production values. This is getting dangerously close to WeTV. There's a similar link in these things too, isn't it? I have no idea what to do if I kill. I'm talking about the camera, right? I know what did it. The only way to fix it is a complete shutdown of everything that I just booted up fresh. Golly. Any case, so we have to figure out how to go to Evernote now to do the grab bag questions and still have a camera. That might take some fun in a few minutes. So we're not going to go there right away. But thank you for noticing the production values last week. There was a lot of work that went into that, and I was very excited to bring that together as what the show hopefully will be and will be like at some point in the future. That would not be this morning. Yeah. And I think maybe what I continue to learn, and what this morning will teach me a little bit, is you don't want necessarily all of that so much as more direct engagement with regard to your needs and your questions. I hope to bridge that, right? To be between those things, that you never leave behind the engagement that you feel like you're bringing part of the show yourself with pulling stuff and going further into impacting the world around us, right? We also got to like get loud enough. And at a certain point, not every voice can be at the top of the pile. Yeah. In any case, my goal is to try to always make sure that your voices are getting heard so that we have lots and lots of different theologically, that is, knowing God through the Bible, driven minds attacking all the questions around us, which usually are, fused with lies of the devil who desires only to deceive and rape and pillage and all that kind of stuff. So, none of that, aside from the move and the throwing up, is what I want to tell you about. I really want to talk about my throwing up, though. I mean, that who doesn't, right? Who doesn't? What's your favorite part? That's what I want to know. What's your favorite part and what's your least favorite part? My least favorite part is being alone. And thankfully, I have a wife who, for whatever reason, whoever throws up in the house, she just goes to them. Thank God. Because she goes to me and she goes to my children, so I don't have to go watch them throw up more. Because that'd be my least favorite part, is watching someone else throw up. Oh my goodness, because then I think I'm going to. Actually, I think my least favorite part really is the chill afterwards. It's like the fever chill, but it's not a fever, right? That and kind of weak. That's like my least favorite part. So how about you? Share your thoughts in the comments. I mean, why not? It's Saturday. What else you got to do? But we do have a super chat I'm going to drop in right away because it's a good theological meaty question to be chilling off the bat with. St. Paul says this: what are your thoughts on catechesis before baptism or baptism before catechesis? Got to parse those words too. I prefer the former. That would be catechesis before baptism, so the new member can partake of the sacrament of the altar during the same service. That is, that when you're baptized, you also come to the Lord's Supper and are confirmed, as we Lutherans would say it. Still, for some reason, you are going to make communion that day as well. God bless, says St. Paul, and I will answer that question right after I turn down my mic to drink this water. That was good water. That was very good water. All right, so the history is this, right? That in the early church, adult converts were required to wait 3 years, at least in some areas, for baptism. And they were required to do that in order that they would be brought into the community. The early Christians were less worried about making friends with the world so that they would have big crowds in their churches in the name of saving people, which may or may not actually save people. And they were more concerned with preserving the community which they had inherited from Jesus. Strictly speaking, the communion around the words and sacraments, the teachings of the apostles, however you want to say that, right? The coming together around the scriptures proclaimed and the doing what the scriptures say, which of course, as often as you eat and drink this, right? You do this in remembrance of me. So the supper was very much keyed into that, tied into that, and baptism as well. So they'd let you come and visit to hear the sermon, and then they kick you out. You didn't get to stay, even if you were like going to be a member. It's like, nope, you got to go home now, because these are the holy things for the holy people. Now, somewhere along the revivalism, modernism, I don't know, post-enlightenment, earlier mid-enlightenment even, somewhere along there, we just kind of abandoned that. We got used to having it, so the culture was in support of it, so everybody kind of went anyway in Western civilization, and most people are baptized as babies anyway in Western civilization, which may or may not have been a good thing. You can talk about church control of the civilization. You want to debate that, that's fine. It's a different question. But we got in this habit of expecting people to already be baptized to begin with. As a society, it just is what was. Even though we've never really been, the West has never been a Christian civilization, truly speaking. I would contend it has not been. But it has been influenced by Christianity, and the Christian church was has been usurped by most governments or forms of government or cultures in the West to promote its own agendas as well. So you'll find the Word of God in a Babylonian captivity, like unto what Luther saw in Rome in the Middle Ages, under a captivity of lies, but it's still there, right? It's still doing its work. And that influence is enough that we have had baptized babies, generally speaking, as a majority of the population for a long time. That's no longer the case. So this question becomes more and more necessary, right? What is the effort now to get people to come to church? We had a whole 300 years of people who said, don't baptize babies, make them make decisions and use rock and roll to do it. And this is what we got after Rome. Right? So the Lutheran Reformation, it kind of fell into some fight for the Roman Empire still, if we're going to talk civilizationally, and ended up dying in that under the hands of a Calvinist leader, right? So it really never got a chance to remain what it was, and I believe that there's reasons for that, but that's a different thing. So as that fight fell apart, and then the American West has arisen, this Protestant is really breaking English, and then from the English church, you got Charles Finney, you got John Wesley coming out of the English church. And all of that whole movement is brought us the civilization. The Puritans, that's where we are today. That's what this is, Puritanism. The crazy you see out there that you're like, what is that? That's the Puritans without their God anymore, but still trying to be a city on a hill. I'm not kidding. Look at the history of the organizations of this country and of the institutions that support the think-tanking work or the progressive agenda that you see and are so bothered by. And you look at the Northeast being the center of this initially, and has always come from that. How schools that were founded to train pastors now don't, but train people to, instigate what's going on, right? It's quite stunning that what you have is the Puritan movement in its demonic essence, attempting to take over the planet, right? I mean, just see that as the spiritual war that's going on. Were the Puritans Christians? I don't care. I don't want to debate that either right now. But the format, their mindset, the framework for their life, that we will go to the wilderness and by pious regulation, indeed, we will convert even the heathen to the right way by the sword if necessary. It's exactly what's going on around us right now. So just seeing that reality, and now coming back to, so how, the question is, how in this reality where we have people who are not baptized as infants and know nothing about Jesus, nothing about Christianity, even though they're like, I love my Bible, I go to church every 3 months, right? Well, okay, you know nothing about Jesus or Christianity. How do you bring them into the Holy of Holies? At all. And so my question for you, Paul, is right back at you. Like, you want to talk about catechesis before baptism. I'm talking about, where do we meet them? I'm not sure they should go to worship. I really am not. I don't think it's the best place to help them understand what's going on. It's just going to be like, what the heck? Oh, these guys are like, they worship gods and stuff here, which is true, right? One, but yeah. So I push in that direction more because I think then, okay, I kind of cheated a little bit for your question's sake in order to say what I wanted to say. Because I think with regard to your question, there is no rule. And this is really important. So there is a time when baptism before catechesis is necessary, and there's a time when catechesis before baptism is necessary. And I would contend that any time you broad brush anybody as generally one or the other, you are falling prey to a modernistic simplification of supreme and divine realities, and believing you have more ability to understand and see and perceive reality than is really quite fair, given your limited human nature, right? And mine too, right? So who knows what this person might need in order to really relish their baptism? Maybe they just need you to do it. And maybe they need you to confront them on how they don't understand it and they don't really know what they're asking for. And is that going to happen in a classroom of 20 people where you just lecture from notes and have them fill in the blanks? No, none of that will happen. So I think we're probably agreed on that whatever catechesis, meaning teaching people to be Christians, used to be or should be, we got to even figure out how to tell people about teaching people to be Christians and have them want to consider that maybe the path of like membership classes hasn't helped the spiritual growth of individuals as they make their way into the body, which is a holy and significantly set apart reality, and not only should look like it, does look like it, will look like it, and will function like it according to the promises of the gospel, which is that the law shall not be over you, but you shall be upon it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna stand upon it. You're gonna be different people. This is why, again, I get so frustrated by the arguments about the first, third use of the law argument. I don't get argued about first use. No one talks about first use enough. That's what we should talk about all the time. The arguments about the third use are kind of missing the point. Like it's not the third use of the law that's going to correct the Christians, right? That might correct the pagans. You're right, and show that they really aren't Christians. This is true, but it's not going to make us better Christians. What makes us better Christians is faith, and faith alone. And faith alone comes only through promises which are trusted. So if we have a problem, it's that we don't trust enough. And the answer to that's, if it is law, it's to confess that we have failed. In first things, who is God? Do I believe in him? Do I trust him every day? Do I walk as if he is there with me? How often is he in my mind? Rarely, I'll have to admit. More since I turned off the TV, I'll have to say, though. I will say that. But rarely. There are hacks, there are tricks. How can you do it? A pocket book of prayers, right? Or listening to music or words, chanted psalms, things like that, which can bring God along for your day. In any case, how do you engage a world that needs that built into the way we teach people to be Christians today? That's my question, Ain't Paul. And I'm going to baptize the person whenever that person needs to get baptized. I have done it in a Starbucks out of a water bottle. I kid you not. And I have also counseled people to wait, right? Can you wait one more week? So it's 15 days with that baby, although the 8th day is preferable, of course, but we're going to have like this massive celebration where there's like hundreds of people here, and it'd be really awesome to share this with them, right? So like, when is the right time? You know, if the baby was sick, you'd do it that second, right? So it's just not as easy as either or. And we really want to be careful, especially as we talk about practice. How do we practice what we do? Either ors that are not from the commandments, from the essential things, are where our Pharisaism always will come out, right? We'll draw a line where God has not drawn a line, then we'll stand there. And we'll say, if you're not on the side of this line, you're not with us. Which makes it interesting for me to want to run back into some of the questions about racism. Oh my goodness, racism. I got a whole bunch of stuff for us today. I want to make sure that I highlight the fact that I have written the name David Preuss, Racism, Fascism, and Lutheranism on the same note card. I want you all to see that. And you got to be, I hope this spikes David Preuss's name in searches this week. This is not intentional. This is like what happens when you are moving and you need a piece of paper and there's one that has David Preuss's name on it and you wrote down what the title of today's show is next to his name. But you do want to mention David Preuss on the show because David Preuss is a good guy. He's a missionary and a professor / seminary planter in the Dominican Republic. I highly recommend you Google his name. His name has come up in some circles and talks about the replacement president for Concordia Seminary in St. Louis, a task which I would not envy anybody having to take right now, given the nature of institutions at the moment, the fragile nature of institutions at the moment. But I believe David has thrown his hat in the ring, and if you want to check him out, he might be someone to... If you're into that kind of political thing, go look at that kind of political thing. There you go. And I want to talk about the real thing on that card now, though. Racism, fascism, communism, Maoism, Lutheranism. I moved, I threw up, I am here now. I plan to virtue signal. I just got different virtues than the others who are virtue signaling all the time. Here's the water. I'll be right back. What I should do when I do that and get the water is I should do this, right? Here, like this. Yeah, I think that's probably better for when I get the water. I will try to remember to do that. Virtue signaling. It is annoying, isn't it? I mean, I'm so tired of like, who's the most heartless company, like the most faceless, bodiless, Borg-like company that has sent me a letter about how they care about my concerns about security for COVID. I don't know. Was it my internet provider? I mean, I was getting regular updates from my internet provider telling me that service would not go out in areas I wasn't in. And that's fine. That's good. Like, I'm really glad that they had the internet's important. Although I think the riots might have had some trouble maintaining themselves without the internet, So just saying, if it had gone out in the areas where they were rioting, that might have helped. Maybe not. I don't know. Who knows? That's part of the question I continue to ask in all of this stuff. Who does know anything? Who can I trust? But what keeps being thrown around more and more, and I'm being forced to reckon with, is racism isn't quite what everybody thinks it is, I guess. Like, as a word, and as a movement, and as an idea, not everybody thinks it means the same thing when you say racism. So when I get a question like, hey, Pastor Fisk, what's the history of Lutherans and racism? It's like, well, which one? And I mean it on every term there. Which Lutherans? Because there's lots of different ones. If you're going to just say that anybody who puts it on a placard outside their walls is a Lutheran, you got all sorts of stuff going on there, all over the world and in history and time, right? So you got that going on. What's that mean? Which ones? And in that, I would say that certainly there has been a history of prejudice, power, violence, often tribally motivated, just as in every other civilization ever. And still is right now if you're watching. right? Racism, screaming it, hasn't stopped it. It's actually being it and doing it at this point. That's my virtue signal right there. Who was it? I didn't have time this week to do what I did last week, but I can tell you, now maybe it's doctored. Here's the thing. How can I know? Who can I trust? I saw on Twitter this morning a retweet of somebody who had tweeted a retweet of a video of Joe Biden claiming that the death of George Floyd is more important than the death of Martin Luther King Jr. Now, part of me is like, that's doctored. Gotta be. Wag the dog, man. But then part of me is like, dear heavens, how, my friends in the communities that call me white in America, how can you listen to that man when he says things like that? Do you know where you have come from, what you have gained as a people, and what MLK did for you? I have a dream that little white boys and little black girls will walk down the street together holding hands and no one will blink an eye. I have that dream because Martin Luther King Jr., even though history has shown apparently has some really dark sides to his private life, whatever, I don't care. He helped me see what the Bible's taught all along, which is that there is one man, Adam, and we are all of him until we are in the one second man, Jesus. And this goes no matter what your ethnicity happens to be. In fact, I'm pretty confident that Matthew 28, that whole bit about the Great Commission, go to all nations, everyone emphasize go. It's about the go, gotta be going. Yeah, okay, yeah, like where? When was as you go in the Greek anyway. Go where, when, to whom? All nations. It's so terrible. We think nations means like city-states. USA. I'm going to China to be a missionary, right? Well, good for you, but that's not what it means. Okay? It's ethne. The word is ethne. Our word ethnicity comes from it. Not the same word, but very, very tightly connected. It is an understanding that people groups, when they gather together, become similar to each other. And if they stay separate from other people groups, they then become different as groups. And when they come together, those distinctions can be seen and even tested. Like some might think that eating their own dung is great and everyone watches and they die. And they're like, well, we're not going to do that anymore. That's called tradition. That's called institutions, right? That's called having wisdom and common sense from the past. That's what we're trying to tear down right now. It's been a project for a while. I don't think TV tried to do it on purpose, but it sure helped, man. And now it's ripping down walls as what Marxism, Maoism, revolutionaryism says it's here to do. And here's the thing I don't get in all of this. I mean, really, why don't we believe them when they say that's what they're doing? Like, you're like, they're trying to destroy civilization. No, they're not. They are really just hurt. But here's a tweet from them saying that they're going to destroy civilization. Well, you just don't understand what those words mean. They don't mean what it looks like they mean. They mean the opposite of that in a really nice way. Oh, you mean like the Help All Teach Everybody group from the church down the street? Exactly like that group, yes, because you're not thinking and listening anymore because you haven't read a book in so long you can't think. And if you haven't read a book in so long, I'm not kidding. So you haven't read a book in so long you can't think. When was the last time you sat there and wrote a clear sentence asking yourself who was telling the truth and what you really believe about anything? Probably a long time, huh? That used to be normal for people to do that all the time. It's been taken from us so that we just shout at each other now. We just shout at each other. No one's listening. And it's all a story of competing economic engines, really globally, I think. Although, again, not being one for conspiracy theories, I've never followed the threads that are like, those are coincidences that might be, well, whatever. I'd like to keep living my life without the Illuminati breathing down my neck. Thank you very much. I won't watch. But there's enough going on to see. Again, there's a global fight going on for economy between the communist/Marxist mindset. It's a worldview. It's a religion, really. And a number of other worldviews. But see, Islam economically hasn't really asserted itself outside of its region. And that has to do with its being split between Sunni and Shiite, I think. And so anyway, so the real fight right now is between capitalistic America and its puritanic Protestant work ethic, better city on a hill civilization mentality, which both parties have, by the way, just different versions of it. It's between that and, again, the Marxist movement that went into Russia as a Germany World War I poison pill. They sent Lenin. Fascinating story. It's all Germany's fault. It really is. They sent Lenin to Russia to undermine the Tsar, the king. He did. They win. And next you get Stalin, who we have to have because Germany, again, and Hitler does all the evil they do. And so we have to be friends with Stalin, even though the guy's a complete mass murderer. I mean, just ridiculously wicked man. Unbelievable death tolls in that country. And the civilization never really rises. So the Cold War all appears to be this big fight, but it's all pretty much a ploy. The civilization's like, their civilization is peasantry, basically propping up whatever they're trying to build. It collapses in the 80s. The walls fall down. If you live through that, that was a fascinating time. It felt like the world was going to be good. Maybe it was. I don't know. But behind all of this, China has had a revolution in communism since, I think it's the 60s. Great movie on that, The Last Emperor. Good movie to watch. Since the 60s, though, the Communist Party. And then I never really asked, why are we so high on supporting China? The time that it connected me, I'm talking media now, right? The time that it really hit me, though, was when I was a pastor at Bethany Lutheran Church and School in Naperville, Illinois. Water time. Oh, I shouldn't do music in the middle of a story, though. I was a pastor there, and my kids were in the school, some of them. And the kids in the one grade my daughter was in, I come out of the office, and they're in the hallway, and they're marching up and down. Fine, kids do that. That's great. And they're all in red. Fine, kids do that. That's great. They're all waving Chinese flags. Okay. Kids in China do that. Okay. And they're saying Sing Hao, which I think is like good day or good morning or something in Chinese. And my daughter's so excited. She's in red, and she's saying Sing Hao and waving Chinese flag or whatever, and saying, today is Chinese New Year. We're learning about China. And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. And I had this moment where I'm like, I wonder if there is a single school anywhere in China that celebrates the 4th of July and makes the kids wear red, white, and blue and say, give me liberty or give me death. Why is that? Do you think that's an accident? And I'm not sure I think it's on purpose, aside from I believe there's a devil. But I think it's like ridiculously dangerous to not acknowledge that that's called brainwashing, actually. That's what it is, right? And we're all kind of like participating in it. I'm not against Chinese people. I'm not against China as a country and a civilization, although I've interviewed people who have fled China and said it's a big fat lie and it's tremendously dangerous. So it's like, I don't know, who do I believe? CNN? No, obviously not. Fox News? Well, probably not often. I question why. They turn on their friends pretty fast. So anyway, here, racism, Lutheranism, that's the question. That's the question I got, right? I'm still trying to answer it. I don't know what racism is. Here's my question. If somebody tries to kill me for being white, they say it to me. I'm going to kill you because you're white, mother blah, 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 end quote. If I defend myself and that person is not white, does that make me a racist? Now, I think a lot of you are like, of course not. I believe there are people, percentages large enough that say, yes, of course you would be. You're white. And at the risk of sounding racist now, because they've really put us in a corner on this one, I'm just going to have to say that I don't even know what racist means anymore. I know that I hope that all ethnicities have no problem coming together to acknowledge the resurrection of Jesus Christ and the words of Scripture, and in that find love, peace, and harmony with each other. I know we will on the last day. But if you're going to ask me to virtue signal hashtags that claim to support certain quote-unquote races that aren't even being run as organizations by those races, so far as I can see, and that are actually harming those communities. And you have people from those quote unquote races within those communities shouting about how bad this is and everyone should stop. I mean, and I just don't know how to even talk about it now. All I can talk about is humans and people. Like, racism is not even a word to me now. I don't think I can talk about it. It doesn't exist. It has no meaning. It has been stripped of all meaning. And so to try to use it, I don't want to save the word. Why would I try to save the word? I want to save the word justification. That's a word I'd like to save for the civilization to keep. Let's keep that word. And we'll let racism just go. And what I want to talk about instead is loving your neighbor. Because I don't care who your neighbor is. I really don't. He could be, well, let's just say, let's say somehow in some weird alt universe, Hitler didn't kill himself. And he gave up like all his other, he cut a deal with the CIA, right? Gave up everybody. I know CIA wasn't there yet, whatever. Gave up everybody. And so cut a deal. So he got to retire next to you. And you have to live next to Hitler now. He's like 102, right? He's your 102-year-old neighbor and he's Hitler. You know what you're supposed to do if you are a good human? Well, you don't pee on his lawn, throw eggs at his house, I'll tell you that. You don't have to cut his grass for him, but you might. You know why? Because he's an old man. He needs your help. That's why. Because that's the right thing to do. Yeah, he was evil. You know what? Do good to people who are evil. That's what good does. Evil people do evil to people who are evil. That's what evil does. I'd rather talk about that than racism. And the reason they're talking about racism is because they don't want to talk about love. They don't really want to talk about a better civilization. They are part of an agenda to tear down the world. And they say so themselves. I have to believe them. I can't trust CNN or any other authorities going to, well, it's all okay, little kids, stay at home, don't worry. I can't buy that anymore. I have to buy the first source. You know this when you're doing any kind of research. I was trained as a pastor. What we're trained to do is do theological research. I'm a lawyer, for pity's sakes, a lawyer. What I can do is go to old books and figure out what they mean and tell you how it applies to you today, right? So when you're doing that, rather than finding, say, something talking about something else from further back, right? So there's a court case that references a principle from a prior court case. Well, get off the one that's referencing it, go to the first court case and get the precedent. And you got to follow the precedent through, and then you'll find the reality. So I have to acknowledge that the precedent, the first line source for these riots is saying they desire to, not to start, to end a race war against whites. To end a race war against whites, and to destroy civilization as anarchist communists. And maybe you think that's just two of them. I don't care how many it is. Like, that's nuts. And until we're all saying to them, that's nuts. As long as we're saying, well, there's reasons for this, right? Then they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. And I'm not going to follow all the bad news this week about how Seattle is effectively another nation now, part of it, which is awesome because it sets a precedent. I got a little homeowners association right here. I'm thinking independence would be nice. So we'll see. We'll see. Actually, what I want is independence from my state. I'll pay my taxes to the U.S. government as long as my state leaves me alone. I'm not kidding. I'm really thinking about it. 40 years from now, who knows? If it all goes like this, who knows? And that's the thing that's so crazy. So if you are over 45, my guess is right now you're waiting for it to get normal again. And maybe it will for a time. If you're under 45, we're all kind of convinced this has been coming for a while. And it's not really going back the way it was. That could be good or bad. We're not really sure. We don't actually want that to be the case. We just all kind of think that is the case. That's our hunch at the moment. And so, we're here thinking things might get ugly and asking, what does this mean? How do we do church in a world where there is a civil war? And I don't bring it up because I want to start it. I don't want it. I want it to go away. Please go away. Dear Lord, may there not be a civil war. But, one of the things I talked about with my buddy Kuntz the other day, I think he doesn't mind me sharing this, is that if you want to study some history that would have application, everyone likes to talk about like the fall of the Roman Empire and the American Empire are the same. That's a very broad brush. I can't turn off my autofocus. It's a very broad brush. He said, go read up on the Spanish Civil War, and you will find a scenario that looks a lot like what we're watching right now. And what happened, it was brutal and ugly because it happened in not the whole country, but in areas of the country, cities, and you end up with real divide, real fighting between neighbors. Some areas would just close off, not want to get involved. That's my agenda. Keep my county safe. But yeah, who's talking about that? Nobody, because we don't want that on the national news. They'll be making it happen, so that's good. What about you and your friends and your leadership and your localities? Your neighbors. Have you talked to your neighbors about what do we do if things get violent in our neighborhood? Have you found the other men in your neighborhood who will help protect? And that's actually the kind of guys they are. Have you found out the ones you can't trust? I don't know. If you live in a city, you live in the country, I don't know. That's the dark world we live in. And whatever, I don't know what to call it, the cereal box world I grew up in the 80s and 90s, I don't know, man. You go where you want to go. I'm still an LCMS Lutheran. It's never going to change. I'm going to show up at church just like I always do and try to make that be the world I know. If my kids can play volleyball again, they're going to do it. I'm just not going to hold my breath while I travel in the valley of the shadow of death. The cities are burning right now. That's not a good sign. Now, someone told me in the 60s and 70s this was going on too, and I believe that's true. It was the same group, actually, wanting these things to happen. They didn't have the internet. It's a catalyzer. We're going to go into some super chats here. As a bunch of you have thrown in. We're going to, I think, there we go. Coming back. A couple of you have thrown in. We got, oh my goodness. Ain't Paul says again, the second one. Check out Lutheran All-Star by Peter Noble. Cool. Sounds good. And Drecky Brinny says, would you be willing to post any of those recipes you use? Yeah, we could do that eventually. Or could you tell us where you find them? Also, if you ever played Battletech. Yeah, so most of our recipes being carnivore, as we more or less are, our kids, you'd call them keto instead, paleo. There's fruits around, they get potatoes once in a while, but we limit sugar. We try to stay in ketosis and out of glucosis, and we believe that carnivore is just the easiest way to do that. You have a lot less work to do tracking and managing things with a carnivore diet. So in any case, that can be boring-er. A lot of beef, a lot of butter, a lot of salt. And it's actually really good and very satisfying. And if you're not looking to celebrate, look, a steak's fantastic, and some burger with a little cheese for lunch is amazing. And some sardines will go a long way. So it's not so bad, but you get that point where you're like, I really would like a little more flavor now and again. The trick is always, is not so much about like, if you have a taste of something, then suddenly your liver is going to change its chemical structure or something. But if you're like me and you have a sweet tooth, the more you find ways to have safe cheats that are okay in portions, they become not safe cheats in portions, but unsafe not cheats in regulars, right? That may indeed be why I threw up last night. So this pizza is fantastic. I mean, in terms of taste, and we can post it. It's effectively, I think, cheddar cheese and eggs that we bake, and then we put tomato sauce and toppings on top of it. And it just, Meredith has really perfected it. So she'd be the one that would have to teach you about it. But we can do that. But it's all of that has come from, the real answer I want to give you is experimentation. So you just kind of figure out what you can eat. And when you're like, well, this is all I've got. I have a bag of Parmesan cheese crisps that probably have a little bit of oil on them that I don't want, but it's not so much it's going to kill me, probably. Here they are. And I have some milk in the fridge, which has a low enough sugar content. I can have a little bit in the day and it won't be a problem. I have a little bit of stevia, and I can put that in a bowl and it crunches a whole lot like honeycomb, like the cereal. It's like I have a bowl of cereal, only it tastes kind of like a sweetened Parmesan cheese, which is weird, but it's like, well, I've missed cereal for 3 years now. So that's fantastic, right? So that's just what happens when you have it in the house and you're hungry enough. You're like, well, that wasn't bad, right? And eventually you get better at it. So what I've started doing more with the cereal, I got to find something other than the Parmesan. The Parmesan's got a bad aftertaste, but I've added these mushrooms, these baked shiitake mushrooms from Costco, which also have some of the preservative chemicals in it, which I'd prefer to be without. But you add those in with your honeycomb cheese cereal. Oh my goodness, it's really good. And they get just a little soft on the outside. They kind of squish like Lucky Charms marshmallows used to do. I don't know if you remember that. Oh man. The hunger for the things that kill you never goes away. It never goes away. So have I ever played Battletech? I have not. And It's weird. My gaming mindset is now suddenly changing, and it has to do with my recognition that there's going to be more games that I think I want to play between now and the time I die than I can possibly play. Like, I read that in a book a couple years ago about all content, but I never thought in my head or applied it to video games. It's a sad day when you have to recognize that. Like, oh, really? Oh, I may never get to play Alex. Well, it was made for rich people anyway. But what I'm changing my mindset into is this DNF&D thing, Dungeon Fast and Dragon Furious thing. My upcoming show in July, hopefully. I mean, I don't know. The last week is all I don't even know if life will go on. I'm moving so much stuff. But my ideal is that this is going to turn back into a normal life, and we're going to work our way back toward that show, which is my attempt to bring my favorite games of all games into one game, and do it in front of you, because I can't play all the rest of them. And so, if you'd like to share with me your favorite part about BattleTech, there's a chance it could become part of DNF&D, and that's the joy of being a fan of DNF&D. If you start watching it, yes, Dungeon Fast and Dragon Furious. Now, your dirty mind, not mine. Come now. Easy. Okay, so my game, Dungeon Fast, Dragon Furious, will be a show. You as a fan, follower, watcher of it, commenting and likewise, have opportunity, are invited to, will be creators of the game with me. And your favorite things about games, right, is so much of what we need, what I'll need from you, right? So when something's going on in the game itself as a show, I may not be able to watch your comments right then, but if you suggest something that, oh, this should have happened then, or this could be like that, right? At some point, we're going to find a way where that information, I get a distilled version of that, right? And the great comments that really are going to make the show better and the game better are going to get in and become part of the game, because I can't make it up all on my own. I don't want to, right? It's more fun to do it together, to toy with the lives of mortals. Yes, join me. Still trying to figure out rule sets and stuff with regard to that. I probably got to make it so the contestants do not get to watch your chat and that kind of stuff. But whatnot, that's all coming, and that's my answer to your BattleTech question, is a commercial for my show that I still am excited about, even though the box in which all the paperwork has been sitting over there. It's safe. It's safe. It's safe. All right, so looks like you are all still continuing to chat there. I want to try to figure out how to get us over to this and yikes, have my camera work. If I do, hold on, I know, I can do this. We're going to go here, and then here. There it went. Hi there. Your stuff, grab bag. We already looked at Jordan saying production values. Yeah, and I complained last week about one production value that didn't work, and it is here for you now. You can see the Mad Christian logo design behind in the broadcast. Yay for that still being there. Yeah, we don't need to explain why that didn't work last week. Let's get into Kissing the Sun. S-O-N. Oh, I'm going to do one more thing first. I'm sorry. We're going to go back. We're going to go back. We're going to go back. This should have been like first and foremost on everything. So, those of you who are podcast listeners, I need you to love me. And forgive me that I could not get you a faster update with regard to your questions about listening to the Saturday Morning Chill. And that just had to do with the move. If I had not been moving at the same time that these transitions were happening, I would have been able to get you something. As it was, it went up yesterday, I believe. There's a podcast that just went out in place of the Saturday Morning Chill as a podcast because of, and I can only say it again, because the music used the Audio Hero contract, which I procure in order to play music for this show, will not allow the music to be played anywhere but on YouTube. And I, at this point, think the music's good enough to make it worth that. That means there has to be a lot of editing done for SMC to become a podcast. And I did not think I was yet paying enough or really directing enough, the gentleman who's been doing that for me, and he does get paid a little bit for what he had been doing, to ask him to take that step yet. But then I've learned since then that another volunteer wants to chop it up and get out all of that, the audio content we can't use, and then put it up. So it looks like SMC will still show up on the podcast feed going forward, which is good news for those of you who were asking for it and want that in that way. Glad to provide it. But also this week on the podcast feed is a new podcast. Yeah, Stop the White Noise with Jonathan Fisk and Brian Wolfmuller, both of us together talking about everything. half an hour every Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock. We'll do it. It should be up sometime by Thursday. I think Thursday is the planned release, but we'll be talking about life in general and Everbook. If you're still into the Everbook thing, theology, first article intersections. I mean, if you're a fan of Brian, you're a fan of mine, there's no reason why you would not think this is like one of the best half hours of your week. It's one of mine, not because of me. So with all that said, that I got to do that commercial, and then super chat's coming in. But we're gonna go ahead and go back to kissing the sun. Let's see. Oh man, seagulls. Where'd it come from? I just came from an online introduction to the Psalms with Australian Lutheran. Oh come on, I gotta move this so I can see the words here. Oh. Forgive me. Oh come on now, Evernote, help me, please. Help me, please. Come this way. There we go. I couldn't read the words. All right. I just came from an online short course, Introduction to the Psalms with Australian Lutheran College, and straight away saw your new video snippet with the verse of the word I wrote spoke in an email or two, Isaiah 54:17a. No weapon forged against you will prevail. That's a pretty sweet thing. There is something about mutual conversation and consolation of the brethren. Amen. I have been learning lately to cling to the word who is Jesus Christ. Today we heard what is meant by Psalm 2:12, kiss the Son lest he be angry and you perish in the way, for his wrath is quickly kindled. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. Just let's say I understand now the act of kissing the crucifix. Yay for that as well, as strange as it may be. It's my new habit as well. It probably will bother Calvinists, which should make Hans Feeney happy, I think, which is okay with me too, right? Hans, you watch, right? No, I don't think he does. But he'd appreciate that joke, I think. Okay, so Isaiah, no weapon forged against you shall prevail. Like, I want that as my confirmation verse so bad now. That's a pretty sweet one right there. So yeah, thank you for that. Anyone I've been listening says, anonymous? Nope, Laurel says this. I've been listening to your message via YouTube over the last few years. I remember one specifically where you summarized world history. Oh, didn't we just do this one? Oh, why am I on? Oh, what a morning. I just moved and I threw up last night in the middle of the night. So you just have to forgive me for somehow, I don't even know how that, oh my, unbelievable. Okay. We're all done. You're still here, right? I didn't lose it. I'm still alive. Here we go. Quentin Glass says this. He says, normally I watch the podcast and boy, has this show changed since I last seen it. This is great. Has it really? At all? Ever? I'm sorry. It's so bad. Oh, goodness gracious. RevFisk, Freedom of Form Online. RevFisk, listening to your discussion with Dr. Adam Kuntz, I can find a copy of the paper by David Schmidt, Freedom of Form, Law, Gospel, and Sermon Structure in Contemporary Lutheran Homiletics online. Awesome. Any chance you'll be able to point me to a copy of it? You can find. The person to contact would be exactly Dr. Kuntz, and you should be able to get a hold of him at Concordia Theological Seminary in Fort Wayne, Indiana. There's like a code for all emails there. It's like Kuntz at ctsfw.edu. Like all universities do that kind of thing, right? So you can figure that one out, and you got it. Yeah, he should be able to help you out very easily, because he's the guy who knows that stuff way bets than I do. Can I say bets instead of betters? Is that what like the kids would do with Yoda? I don't know. Jimmy Fly says 45. Most people running for an initial office do not claim party. I have noticed this for years. Really? Thanks, Jimmy. That's helpful. Appreciate that very much. Trusted Shield says this. I am into needlepoint. That is why what I'm doing as I listen. You know what? Needlepoint's a thing. It's in places. What really needs to happen is one of these little, I don't know what to call them, quilt stores. They're in most towns. Most small towns have one. They're kind of a hobby club store run by the elderly ladies, and they can be like things that are run by elderly ladies, which is rigid at times. Sorry, it's just true. What really is needed in more areas like that, of course, this would be a pre-COVID thinking, is someone who could mix and mesh like a needlepoint catechesis, like education and needlepoint and knitting and all that together, yarn shop with cafe, right? That's the key. That's the key. But yeah, my kids are into needlepoint and crochet. And is it needlepoint? Crochet. I don't know. My wife's got them doing everything. I see my boy doing it. I'm like, what's going on? Don't you dare. No, but he's working on, accuracy and focus and finger development, all that. So cool. I've also heard from my wife that type of work is incredibly what's the word now? Meditative, contemplative, that you can think while you do it. Not unlike shuffling a deck of magic cards, honestly. And if I had one really close, I'd do it for you. In any case, to the venerable and mad Reverend Fisk, we got a new note, encouragement from the LSB. Thank you for your very bold, sane, comforting Christian presence on social media and elsewhere on the internet. I'm glad you think it's sane. I'm never sure these days. More of this is badly needed in a world given over to sin and death. Amen to that. For most of 2020 so far, I have been angry, saddened, discouraged, sick, and disheartened. Yeah, right. All of that is happening all around us. COVID, social unrest, etc. is pretty overwhelming. And that's not even to mention all of the other struggles we individually wrestle with and are forced to deal with. I won't even go into all of it, but it sure seems like the devil is having plenty of field days with his prowling and devouring. Yes, that's the truth. I feel as though I'm still reacting, still trying to process all of this madness and mayhem, all trying not to let the devil, the world, and the old Adam have their way with me. It's been a rough year by far. It's the cross, though, right? It's the cross. It's always that in some way. It can be a cross that you learn to embrace, and it can be a cross that you flee from, but it's always, life's always a cross. I'm so ecstatic. I got this amazing dream to live like on a little tiny lake. It's like my whole life, I just want to live on water. I'm living on water now. It's like a dream come true, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be a cross, and I know it. The thorns and the thistles are going to grow in the ground. It's going to be there, right? And then the wickedness of man, his need to murder his brother, right? It's just Genesis 3, 4, 5, 6. It just tells us how it is. We can learn so much from it if we get over the arguments about whether or not it really happened. I think it really happened. I think you're an idiot to think it didn't. I mean that. You're a fool. But you don't even have to think it happened to see that it is wisdom from ancient times telling us how it's going to be. And to think that somehow we're gonna create a Maoist perfect future or a capitalist perfect future is just insane. You're gonna have strong men gaining power through good work, often as young good men, sometimes as good old men with bad sons. In any case, it's gonna decay, and then we build again. And then they try to throw it. There's tyranny that comes, and then you must defend. And it's just the mass migration of nations. The mass migration of ethnicities, of peoples, of tribes, of families, of individuals. And what happens is what you see. There's nothing new. The only thing really new is that for a while there, that Enlightenment take on the first use of the law, that is to reasonably understand it, kept this civilization in some pretty good curbs. Yeah, it couldn't go off the rails too hard. We've been tearing down the rails, and now we are banging against the interchange middle wall with half of the nation saying we'll hit it, and the other half saying no, and we're veering like into traffic. Right, that's what's going on. But we're gonna hit that thing, and we're gonna go off into a lawless world. And what will happen after that? This is what I was saying earlier, where I kind of based my thinking. I don't know how big the lawless world will get. Will it be Wyatt Earp days? I don't know. May not get that big, but what will happen is law will rise to replace the lawlessness. It will happen. That's what always happens. What I want to do is support the good law that does. I don't think the U.S. is going to fall. I think that there's going to be local municipalities attempting to reassert some of their rights, and I want to be right on board with that, because I think if we don't, my children might have a much worse country than this one. Because I still think it's a great country. I think it's awesome. I really do. I wish we had open carry, because I think it would stop all the madness. No one would be doing this if we all had guns. We'd all be terrified. We all know how to shoot them, and so we know what they do, too. Like, I don't want to shoot that if I don't have to. So I'd like to see that. I think it'd be way safer. And then we just keep going, because we're fine. Because most of us don't want to kill each other. Really, the group that is trying to instigate it all, they are a smaller group. The problem is we have a big, wide, milky, blush wine drinking middle who is afraid to believe the emperor has no clothes. So, what? The cross. The cross. The cross. We shouldn't expect it to be different. Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy, pray it every day. Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Kyrie eleison, amen, amen, right? Speaking of the devil, letter goes on. We could all use some encouragement during these crazy times. Amen. So I hope you can enjoy this gloriously epic hymn, LSB 521. I'm pretty sure that the Christ Lord of Hosts and Shaken is one I can enjoy. It's a fantastic hymn. It is so good. It has the word dragon in it. How can you not like a hymn that has the word dragon in it? Oh my goodness. It tells how Christ has completely, unquestionably vanquished the enemy. Right. No question, total annihilation, such vivid imagery. And I think this is super relevant to our times and a good reminder. Also, this Peter M. Prang guy, I think he's winning the hymn writing thing. I mean, come on, the guy uses a dragon. See, you said it yourself. That's right. That's right. He pulled it well. So here's what we're going to do. You've got it written out for me there. Oh, I love this one so much. We're going to do a little dramatic poetry today. Let's see what happens. It's going to take a second to set up because I did not have this playing because I told you, whoa, this is as chill as the chill is going to get because it's all from the hip today. What I need, though, most magically and miraculously, is a little bit of random. So, we'll play this while we're waiting. Can this do? Oh, no. That's like the really nice one from last week. Don't waste that. And I don't use that either. Oh, I don't have anything. Hold on. I know. Let's take a break. Back to Prime. Okay, I think... Oh, and I turned it all up so I could hear the music because the music was cool. I just had to turn that down and turn this up instead for me. That would have worked good. Now, what we're going to do... I got half of it done. Take another break. All right, that's a short break. Here, we're going to try a couple pieces of... Camera. We're going to try a couple pieces of music to test something before we go. So this is what I would like to do on a Friday afternoon usually for you, but we're going to do a little bit of it live here. So we're testing. Well, that's a nice piece. Oh, that's kind of pocket bell. Okay, we did that one already. No. Come here. This one. How long is that? Doesn't tell me. Ooh, we used that last week. This will work. Okay. Here we go. Can I control the sound? No. So we're going to do it like this. Okay. You've borne with me. I haven't even looked to see how many I lost. We ready? Here we go. Hopefully this will be pretty cool. We shall see. I want to turn that music up, though. Hold on. Where are we on that? That was on the movie, right? Here we go. Christ, the Lord of hosts, unshaken by the devil's seething rage. No, he thwarts the plan of Satan's minions. He wins the strife from age to age. He conquers sin, and death forever slams them in their steely cage. Michael fought the heavenly battle. Godly angels by his side warred against the ancient serpent. Foiled that beast so full of pride, cast him earthbound with his angels. Now he prowls, unsatisfied. Long on earth the battle rages, since the serpent's first deceit. Since it twisted God's... Oh, I messed up. It twisted God's command to Adam, made forbidden fruit look sweet. Oh, the music's terrible, though. That doesn't work at all. Listen to that. It sounds like a bad video game. Hold on. I gotta stop it. It ruined the words for me. So that was really cool music for a bit, but it needed to change. So I needed to find like another piece of music to bring in. So I told you, it's like, this is as chill as it's going to get. Let's see. What else could we do? I want to get to the end of that song. It's got such good stuff. Here's Quest for Something. Here we go. Why not? Long on earth, the battle rages. Since the serpent's first deceit, twisted God's command to Adam, made forbidden fruit look sweet. Then the curse of God was spoken, you'll lie crushed beneath his feet. Jesus came, this word fulfilling, trampled Satan, death defied, bore the brunt of our temptation, on the wretched tree he died. Yet to life was raised victorious, by his life our life supplied. Swift as lightning falls the tyrant. See, we need something different for that too, right? That music is not good for falling tyrants. Let's see here. That's okay though. It did something. Ooh, that's interesting. That'd be a good one to start with. That's interesting. None of these are really going to work for the piece. Unless this does. It's really kind of cheesy, huh? Let's see though. Swift as lightning falls the tyrant from his heavenly perch on high. As the word of Jesus' victory floods the earth and fills the sky. Wounded by a wound eternal now, his judgment has drawn nigh. Jesus, send your angel legions when the foe would us enslave. Hold us fast when sin assaults us. Come then, Lord, your people save. Overthrow at last the dragon. Send him to his fiery grave. Doesn't quite get that part either, does it now? But see, I've been working on some stuff like that. I just don't know quite the format to bring it to you. And it'd be cool to be able to do it a little more off the cuff like that, but the trick is finding the right music, and then you can turn it into shorter videos if you see what I'm saying, all that kind of stuff. But good hymn. Good hymn. Let's just get straight back and keep going with your comments, questions, concerns, and donations from Evernote and whatnot. I am Athanasius chimes in about streaming and communion questions and says this: on lockdown services at RevFisk J, I know caution is wise, but can you give a brother credit for refusing to let his church shut down and fighting to err on the side of immortality confessionally? There was no home communion, and those who communed were not shown the stream. Well, that's good. Yeah, I can give props for that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about not showing the stream. That is, though, based on what we were talking about in the first hour, on the early church's habit of not allowing anyone who was not communing to come into the communing space during communion, like unto the Supreme Court, right? That's what they did. And we don't do that anymore. So there's something to be said for not broadcasting communion. And I've actually thought about that too, from my own part, but you wouldn't want to do that in some sort of like, well, we're, no viewing for you, right? Like, how do you close the service for those who are at home and those kinds of things? I don't know. I'm not sure that streaming outside of just open streaming is really a good idea for a church anyway. So it's like, in my mind, you just turn the camera on and it just stays on, and you don't necessarily make a show of the supper for sure. But I don't know. I got good friends doing that too, and I wouldn't want to condemn them for what they're doing. So I give a brother credit for trying and for not being heterodox on purpose. It's the guys who are being heterodox on purpose that bother me, who are taking a stand on, we'll just do it, commune at home. I mean, that's the problem, right? That's where the two sides are. LCMS and really all conservatives ever just have a habit of like fighting each other over things that are small, when there is really often a large enemy that they could align with. Pro-life, hello. I mean, come on. So in any case, dear Pastor Fisk, another question. Bring your own communion. Thank you for everything you do, especially YouTube video channel and books. You are welcome. I am not German, but I can speak a German accent. Not really. Who do I sound like? Horace? Maybe not. I am a lifelong Lutheran in New Orleans, Louisiana. Cool. At my church, we started a weird communion practice due to the pandemic. My pastor wants us to bring our own communion elements. You know what, though? I don't think that's weird at all. That's also early church, and I've suggested it to some extent to my own elders as an option, as well as the idea of bringing your own chalice, and then we just pour from a flagon into the chalice. But the early church, the offering starts, and people don't bring money during the divine service, right? They bring food. And the offering of the divine service is bread and wine, and it's brought so that it might be shared with the group, not kept individually. That's what 1 Corinthians says don't do, right? Although in this pandemic, I could understand doing that for a time. But then I would also understand or expect that you'd work that back into you keep bringing the bread yourselves afterwards, right? Or are you, I don't know, what bread are you bringing? And how much more clean do you want to get than a prepackaged thing of wafers, right? And if the pastor has a glove on, I mean, what's going to happen? And here's the thing too. I mean, we haven't talked about COVID much now. There's a story here locally of a young lady who's on a breathalyzer or whatever it's called, not a breathalyzer, a breather. Young lady in her 20s just had a baby early because of all of this. And as I understand it, things don't look good. And hard not to pray for this lady. You have to, because this is COVID. This is what it can do. This is a lady who worked in the health industry, which meant that exposure to COVID is an increased likelihood or chance. And the information that I have seen, which is too much and often conflicting, indicates a possibility that you are more likely to catch a debilitating and killer version of COVID if you are treating and tending killer versions of COVID. That is, the virus works by maximizing itself in your body. And so you have it already and you're working to fight it, and you breathe in more and they join forces against you, right? And so it's, walking through Costco or taking communion is not going to likely do to you what these other things do to people. That seems to be what the science is saying. Who do I trust? Who do I listen to? I listen to James Altucher. He is my voice on pandemic. I have a subscription to stuff for him that he sold me. It's not even what I asked for. He huckstered me into a lifelong $250 subscription on crypto. I get that stuff once a month too. It's very interesting. I think he's a pioneer and a leader in the thought. And so I kind of follow what he says. But he also then, he's building his own little pyramid scheme. And I mean, entertainment scheme, I guess. It's not... Actually, the one he sold me was Pyramid E. Yeah. But he does continue to make good on it. And one of the things he does is he shares his own stuff he's finding that he's really interested in with this little newsletter he sends. And so he, as a New York resident, a 50-plus, going on 60-year-old Jew, has been very focused on talking to people at the pioneer, the front end of understanding COVID, World Health Organization and whatnot, forgetting their own organizational lies and all that, the individuals who are continuing to say, here's the new stuff, and he's getting a broad brush of it. So when I get that every couple of weeks, I take it pretty seriously because it usually will affirm about 70 or 80% of what I'm hearing through the white noise. And often the things that seemed at the time to be the most credible anyway. And then it's like, oh, look, here it is. So where I'm at with this disease, right, what I believe about this disease is that you can catch it like the flu. That's what it does. That generally you cannot catch it unless symptoms are expressing. That is, they have to have a fever or they're not going to pass it to you. That's the most recent news I've heard. Okay, they have to have a fever. So rather than wearing masks, as much as I'd love you to buy a Mad Christian mask, rather than wearing masks, what we really probably need to do, and I will talk with my elders about this eventually, is got to buy those little tiny fever monitors and either have them at home and monitor yourself before you go to church or out in public, or in your location. I've had this at various stores or at doctor's places, right? They just check your temperature before you can go in. And if you have a fever, you can't go in because that's when you can spread the disease. And aside from that, we're pretty safe. Even if you're a risk demographic, you're really, really lowly at risk unless you're around someone who has a fever and they're sneezing on you and you're like drinking their fluids and things, right? It's like the flu. And can it kill you? Yes. Can the flu kill you? Yes. In similar ways? Kind of. Again, I don't know enough to say what the flu would do if it had a bunch of killer versions of it in a bunch of hospitals together feeding on itself, like we did with this, right? I don't know. I'm not a virologist. But what I can say is this looks an awful lot like what the flu has always been. And whether it comes or goes again, we shouldn't be afraid to have communion. And that's all I'm actually caring about, because the rest of it, you live your life. If you feel you're at risk, you stay at home. Okay? But for those of us who don't feel we're at risk and are in agreement with me, are like, yep, this just really seemed a bit tactical. I hate to admit it. I don't want to live in that world. Anyway, for those of us who are like, well, it kind of seemed tactical to me, I'm going to keep being a Christian and doing what Jesus said to do every week. And you're welcome to have us come bring you private versions of it and all this. So we're not saying you're wrong. We're just saying we're going to keep going. Right? That's where we all need to be. Right? That's where we all need to be. Walking forward as Christians. So now, now your question goes off in a different direction here a little bit. I believe this idea is sacrilegious. People bringing Cheez-Its and grape juice for communion seems quite wrong. Yeah, if that's what they're bringing, that is quite wrong. So the way the early church would do this is you would have brought fresh baked unleavened bread, the one you would have had for breakfast probably anyway, maybe. You would have brought that, and you would have brought the wine, right? And you would have had enough as a group so that you all could have some, and initially they set a place for Jesus too, and then they left that, and I believe they poured that out. That eventually turned into more of a distribution system that had to do with things like what was going on in 1 Corinthians, when people are getting drunk and whatnot, and some people are coming and they have their own and they won't share with others, which is kind of what COVID would have us do, which again is an interesting thing, though I could understand it for a time, yada, yada, yada. I mean, if it's Ebola, you probably don't want to drink out of the chalice. Then again, whatever, right? I guess Ebola kills you, you die, and you feel better. So we maybe shouldn't be as afraid of Ebola as we are, although I am more afraid of Ebola than I am of COVID, and I don't think that's unreasonable for me to be so, right? But if anybody is doing anything other than bringing bread and wine in a reverent manner, then this is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. It is sacramentarian poppycock, and they don't have the Lord's Supper. Cheez-Its and grape juice, the Lord's Supper cannot be. Seagull's going to bite your face. Since I am a young adult, Nathan continues, I don't think my voice can make a difference in changing this practice. No, probably not. But it might. People seem to think youth know everything when youth talk about how we should do bad ideas. I don't know. Youth having good ideas is a rarer thing. So I have less of a, a background of information to draw on for how people handle it. But in my experience, if you come as a conservative of any stripe, wherever you are, including in an LCMS congregation, you can be ignored just for wanting to be Lutheran. It's quite possible. So, but I would say use your youth to your advantage. You are the one that everyone thinks the church is supposed to reach, and you have an idea about how it should go, right? So, talk like that. The trick is learning the language of debate in the Missouri Synod congregation. It's not by thesis and truth. It's a little bit more by nostalgic question and gentle shrugging. And if you can learn that, smile, shrug, be nice, ask good questions, you can move people. You can. And I don't think that that's deceptive. I think that's just learning the language. It's just how people talk. There's a lot of uncertainty of who's really in charge, and so everything's kind of in a question format. And the pastor is in charge, but we are afraid of that for some reason in the LCMS, so we don't want to admit it. He's not in charge like king, except he is, but not like a bad king, but like a king who would use the word of God to teach you what the truth is. In any case, approach your pastor. Tell him you like going to church. Tell him you're a young man who loves Christianity and loves Lutheranism. Tell him that you're concerned about this. Ask him what he says. Because my hope is, if you're a Lutheran, this is a Lutheran church, there's no Cheetos and grape juice coming. They're bringing bread and wine. And that'd be all right. I mean, not ideal, I don't think, but all right. Yeah. So what does Paul say to Timothy? Do not let them look down on you because you are young. Now, he's saying that to a pastor about his office, so it's not quite the same, but the office of Christian, man, lay, man, dutiful citizen. Well, if you're going to be a dutiful citizen, they should not look down on you just because you're young. If you speak wisdom. Who's Elimahu? Oh, Elimahu and Job, right? You get these three friends of Job who come along. You're like, well, Job, here's your problem. And each one of them's heresy. It's like Joel Osteen preaching. I'm not kidding. It really is. They teach like Joel Osteen and Rick Warren. Like there's a bunch of that. And then at the end, this guy named Elimahu comes in. Elimahu is like a young guy. I don't know. I used to imagine I'm Elimahu. I'm young and awesome, right? He comes in and he's like, hey, you're all wrong. God's going to do what God's going to do and you should repent. And then God shows up and he even tells Elimahu that he shouldn't have spoken, but he's right. And Job's like, you're right, God, you're right. And then it all is about how God's in control of everything. And we can go more into that on Job. But the point is Elimahu's young. And he has this line where he says, it is not only the wise who have knowledge. So while I'm sure my flesh clings to that or clung to that. Oh, yeah, I'm wise. It's nice to know that you can know things even when you're young. And if you build upon the wisdom of those who came before you and you're just standing in their train, it's not your pride at work. And you can say it's not only the wise who have read what we do and have done and shall do and can speak about it. So, but I would ask your pastor gently first. Hey, pastor, do you know your pastor? Is it one-on-one or is it a big church? You might have to introduce yourself. You might not. But share your concern. Share why. Be nice. Smile. Yeah. Talk about it. He may actually think exactly what you think and be fighting his own war. Yeah. So, I got 2 dislikes this morning. This is good. Wolf Mueller tells me that if I get more dislikes, that means I'm more popular. Yes. Darth Mick says this. I come in peace. It is interesting that every form of greeting is a declaration of peace. Bowing makes you unable to attack. The open blade Free handshake, yes. The kiss as well. They're also forms of comfort in community and trust, right? It's trust. They're forms of trust. I bow my head because I trust you. The thing is, the handshake also was a form of trust, I think, to some extent. The open hand, like you said, for blade free, but I'm thinking about hygiene now and how you used to have the kiss, which was not really on the lips or even on the cheeks, but kind of around, right? Why? Hygiene, that's why. They knew more than we know. We got spoiled by soap and we don't realize, right? And so the handshake is actually one of the worst ideas we've ever had. If we're really concerned about illness in the community, if you're really concerned about getting sick at church, don't get rid of the chalice. No, bad idea. Get rid of the handshakes. Get rid of those. Never bring them back. I know, the kiss of peace. We can learn to do it again. You don't actually have to touch it. Yeah. But whatever, that's where it's like, though, the more you hear the screaming about it and you know the facts of the science of it, it's just hard to like listen to the screaming much longer, right? So I didn't mind tuning out for 3 days and doing nothing but move, aside from the fact that I really felt bad letting my team not know where I am and all that. I got to go to church tonight and like lead there too somehow. Oh my goodness. So in any case, yeah, greetings as forms of peace, Godspeed, goodbye, God go with you, right? Until we meet again. All these phrases are indeed, they're friendships. I need a step there. Wow. They are friendships. And that's the question. In America, we have this way of being friends with everybody. Like you meet someone and you're supposed to be on intimate handshaking acquaintance with them. And like in Japan, you'd bow, right? Yeah. And that's more like, I recognize we're not at war with each other, but I'm not going to give you bodily contact yet. That's intimate, right? So the American way of handshake is a very intimate thing. I don't know. Did we get that from across the pond? I don't know the history of that. Darth Mick, you asked it, so I'm curious more on the history of the handshake. Any case, we're going to move on. No male or female pastors? Oh, that's interesting. Oh. Can I comment on Galatians 3:28? Yeah. Been there, done that. As a rule, argument for women's ordination. Would you agree it's being used out of context? Absolutely. Poppycock. You are a fool to think it has anything to do with that. Give me 1 second. We'll get there. Oh, you have it right here for me. Thank you. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither slave nor free. There is no male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. So, if there is neither Jew nor Greek, then black lives don't matter more than Jew or Greek lives do. There's neither white nor black. So, interesting that the same groups that would use this for the pastor stuff generally are the ones who are going to be all about how certain lives matter and other lives don't matter. As opposed to all lives being, equally glorious, a la Dr. King and his movement of liberation. I mean, that's what we got to, I'm on a tangent here, but we have to take up civil rights from the African-American community as it is putting it down. Not all of them are, but those that are, they're trying to get rid of their own rights. Actually, at this point, I think they're getting rid of police. They're not going to have any protection. I mean, it's going to be bad. Oh my. So, I just said it. Whatever. There's neither Jew nor Greek. We're all one. We're all one in Adam. We're all one in Christ. There's neither slave nor free. Which is to say, whatever you have, it doesn't matter because it's all going to burn. It's not that you don't have it. If you have a gun and I don't, you tell me I'm your slave, then I'm your slave, at least until I get the gun from you. That's just the way it works in a fourth commandment world that's gone bad, gone sinful, gone bent. There is neither slave nor free. In reality, though, that we are all one in Adam and we are all saved in Christ. There is neither male nor female. That is, you can't be saved. I shouldn't say this. Say it this way. That is, it is not to say that one must be a man to be a Christian or one must be a woman to be a Christian. You, all people. And that's his whole point, right? Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor free. It sounds like he's being hyperbolic even. Now, he's not really going over the top in like a classic hyperbole, but he's like trying to use extensive, what you might call exegetical, that's explanatory language to explain his first point. And you might go back further and find 327 has something to tell you about it, which I know it does. I just don't want to have to mess with my computer right now because I'm so frustrated by not having it where I want it to be. But what I can do is I can find a Bible right here real fast. That won't take long. Ooh. Where's my paper one? It's right there. Oh, I'm going to do it. You must wait. I just learned the worst part about the awesomeness of Apple AirPods is that you get used to thinking you're listening to yourself in them, and then you walk away with a wired connection, and it doesn't work out so well. So we are going to Galatians 3:28, and I'm grabbing my paper Bible. I've spent some work in this studio space trying to craft an actual devotional table. It's like a standing desk. It's square. So I know guys have kneelers I've seen before, but it's a devotional spot. So I want not all, but my favorite biblical rereading resources are just all going to be there. So my paper Bible that I've had for a long time, my CPH one here. Not my favorite Bible because there's a whole lot more commentary than Bible in this thing, which is why you get it. But I'd like a leather version that just had the Bible. In any case, Galatians. We'll get there eventually. It's the chill. What are you talking about? What time is it? 9:51. Galatians 3:27 is what we're after, right? You always want the context. You want as much as you can get if you can. 23 says, faith before faith came, we were held captive under the law, ESV, imprisoned until the coming faith would be revealed. So then, the law was our guardian until Christ came. Now, so you have to define the law. The moment you get into that conversation, you have to ask, is he talking about the Ten Commandments? Is he talking about the Levitical codes? Is he talking about natural law? Just that we have a design that God made? And the answer is sort of yes, but with an emphasis on the Levitical codes. Because his discourse, although it's not the Galatian heresy, his discourse, the Galatian heresy, is about the belief that the Old Testament codes are more real or are part of as real as the New Testament institutions of baptism and the supper, and that they must be done in the same level. And he's in a treatise to say that is not the case, that has passed away, that if we're going to use the word law to refer to a pattern of ritual by which we become righteous, not only did the old system never do that, right? Not really outside of Christ, but that old system itself has passed away as well. That's kind of where the law language is going in all of this. The law was our guardian. That is, we Jews, he means. We who were Hebraically under Moses' version of the gospel, the shadowy, cloudy version of the gospel. So he actually kind of means gospel there a little bit with the word law. The Levitical religion, right? We were under that guardian until Christ came. From the order of Melchizedek, right? He is not from the order of the Levites. He's from the order of Melchizedek. So Christ came in order that we might be justified by faith. So it's about justification. I told you I want to say the word. Jesus is your excuse. That's what it means to be justified. I have an excuse. His name is Jesus. In order that we might know that instead of some code, including the actual law, including the actual Ten Commandments, that can't save you either. And so even though he's really talking about just the Levitical codes in the narrow, it has application to the entire argument. How are you saved? Why are you saved? Into what are you saved? Is it from works to faith? Is it from works through faith to more works? Is it from faith to works? Is it from faith to faith? Is it from faith to faith and works are right there all along? That's where I'd go. Okay. But you have to answer that question as well, right? What is the argument of the entire book? Because that's what he's doing. And he's in a like a magical poetic hyperbole to emphasize the point of how real this is now, right? How real it is that you're not saved by your works, but by faith. Now that faith has come, we are no longer under a guardian. For in Christ, you are all sons of God through faith, which is to say that there is no division between you and Jesus now, right? There is no other pattern that will pass away. And this is where baptism and the supper become so key to this. These are his eternal patterns. These aren't going to go away. In far what they are, you're not going to get rebaptized a whole bunch of times. Your baptism's never going to stop being your lifeline, your umbilical cord to Jesus. That's kind of a cool way to think about it. So, in any case, you're all sons of God through faith. Now, he uses the word sons of God here, meaning heirs according to the promises, meaning everybody is an inheritor. It has nothing to do with, in the resurrection, what kind of genitalia you will have. You will reflect who you are. You will not cease to be you. God is not going to androgynize the human species. He made us male and female because he thought it would be good. I don't know what that means for sex and marriage in the world to come. It seems it's going to be quite different. I'm just going to let it be, right? I don't know. But I know this, right? That man and woman don't go away in paradise, but we are all sons of God because we're all inheritors as sons historically. Without Christianity, we're the only ones of. And Christianity is actually the one who said, well, the daughters should get stuff too because they're people too. That's Christianity. In any case, it's on that sons of God reality, though, that he's going to go a little bit in this. What does it mean? What does it mean to be a son of God? And when I say it's not circumcision, it's baptism, I'm not kidding, because what? Oh, does it say baptism in verse 27? The one I wanted to go look for? Does it say baptism? Oh, look at that. For as many of you as were baptized into Christ have put on Christ. That's a good one. It's so buried in this argument, I don't use it much because it's harder to explain the argument around it when you're trying to talk about baptism with people, but just by itself, look at that thing. As many of you as were baptized into Christ have put on Christ. Wow. That's all it takes. Baptism, that's all it takes. Jesus is on you. Oh, what a thing. And then in Jesus being on you, you're under the King. There is neither Jew nor Greek. That is, all ethnicities are equally under the King. There's neither slave nor free. All hierarchies are under the King. There's neither male nor female. That is, all diversities of the sexual reality of mankind are also alike under the King. So, since that is true, that we are one in our King Jesus Christ, and if we are Christ, then we are offsprings of Abraham and heirs according to the promise, which was the point of the sonship again. Well, therefore, doesn't that mean we should do what Jesus says? Or does it mean that there are no males and there are no females, and that there are no blacks and there are no whites? We don't actually exist. There's no such thing. There's no Chinese. There's no Latinos. The census is a lie, right? And there is no property. There is no ownership of things. No one has rights or properties. Okay, so if you want to think that's true, that would be the argument for female ordination from this text. Now, I just gave you the whole context of it, and you figure out how you're going to make then him saying, now the real point is that there is no race, and there is no property rights, and there is no gender. So female pastors, because that's totally the topic is pastors, right? Like the next chapter is all about pastors, right? Oh no, it has nothing to do with pastors. It has everything to do with being saved. And it says everybody gets it free. And to take that and try to use it to get your witchcraft into the church, ladies, sorry. Wherever there has been female ordination within 10 years, you got witchcraft in the church calling itself Christianity. I ain't kidding. And I've seen it firsthand. It is wicked. Keep the females out of the pastorate, guys. It's what Jesus says to do. And I'll leave it at that for now. It's in love, and it's not to be done by the sword. You don't keep them out by the sword. That's not how he did it. You keep them out by the cross, which means letting them yell at you and be the naggy wife that they can be. And then you love them. And you say, no, I'm going to do it differently because Jesus told me to love you. No. There's a lot of husbands and wives that need that conversation, I think. Yeah, for both. It's much better when you're at peace, isn't it? Pastor Fisk, moving on. This morning, as I drove to work, my playlist was shuffling. Yeehaw. That's the way to do it. It came across this old school rap song. Sweet. The words are worth their weight in gold. I'm reminded of what I have ultimately signed up for as a follower of Christ, despite Corona, despite rioting, despite my lying government. I have signed up to die even daily. Amen. This song is called Signed Up to Die. Oh, sweet. That does sound awesome. Signed Up to Die. Signed Up to Die by Thistle. I like his name too. That's sweet. That's spelled all funky. THI''SL. If I ever do launch a rap career, which I have contemplated from time to time, not that I know how to rap, but I am a good freestyle poet. Father Exodus is what I was leaning on with an X. Yes. Anyway, Thistle sounds awesome. I will listen to this, Michelle. Thank you. I'll throw you another one. I have a number of playlists, and I live mostly from playlists and shuffle. But one of my playlists is called Showtime, and it's got all my absolute favorites right now, right? You end up on that. And on repeat, over and over, is Scared of the Dark. I don't even know. The way I have it here, I was retagging a bunch of stuff, and I don't even know if I know who it's by. Scared of the dark. It's not all good, but it's awful good. I ain't going to be afraid of my own street. No. And what's the worst that's going to happen to me? I'm going to die and wake up in the light. Huh? I mean, this is good stuff, right? Christians need to make good music that doesn't get annoying and actually says this stuff, but when the pagans say it, I'll sing it with them. Okay, thanks, Michelle. Jedi Knight, Anakin Cringewalker, again, lets his lightsaber be seen. Do not wallow in the muck, stand upon the ruins is actually a great Holy Order motto. Amen. I wonder if it sounds cool in Greek, Latin, or Syriac, Aramaic. Might look into this. Illuve non voluntabuntur. Illuve non voluntabuntur. It sounds like German when I say it that way. Stare ex ruinas. Ooh, I like that. I think that was don't wallow in the muck, stand upon the ruins in Latin, right? That would have been Latin. Cool. I don't know. I got more on that thought in a couple of weeks probably for you. Yeah. I'm still setting up I'm calling it Cyprian's helm. It's my studio. Cyprian, stand upon the ruins, not wallow in the muck with those who have no hope. I don't know enough about St. Cyprian. I want to learn more. Wolf Mueller could tell you more already, probably. But that motto for me has just become my motto. And so as we contemplated buying property and living in the Rockford area forever, or until they kick me out of the church, or until I die, or until I retire, whatever, never stop preaching. I can hand the reins to somebody. But in any case, thinking about what it means to lock in to that, to stand here permanently. And even if we ever move again, for my own head, I wanted to name my house, and I wanted to name my mindset, right? So I'm going to get a kayak for my lake, and I'm going to kayak in the mornings and try to think about you, pray for you, pray for the world too. But I'm going to name my kayak Cyprian's Ruin. Get a little cheap little stuff. Cyprian's Ruin right there. Because I want to stand upon the ruin. Yeah. As little as I know about St. Cyprian, I know he was a Christian. I know he was a father. I know we quote him in the Confessions. I know that he saw what I see. I'm not talking about whether COVID will turn things. He just saw it's ruin. Do you see it's a ruin? You keep thinking it's going to go back to not being a ruin. It was a ruin then too. You just were too numb. It's a ruin. So my little boat's going to be Cyprian's Ruin. Whatever. The geese will poop on me. But then my studio here, I'm calling Cyprian's Helm. Because I really have the intention of building, right? Building from here. Doing more together with you. Being a political voice. And I don't mean running for politics per se. But I mean making sure that the world around Lutherans knows that we're here, that we're good people, that we have no intention of harming anybody racially or otherwise, and that we'd like to build up our communities and keep our babies alive and not have people take our stuff from us. And we're here to help with that. I think we could be a force like that. And so, yeah. So Cyprian's Helm, the place from which, for my own life, this motto gets to be what it is. I almost named the house Cyprian's Helm, but we left turned at the last second, and you'll have to wait. You have to wait for that. That's third show. That one might come out in August, maybe July. We'll see. Really, for reals. In any case, yeah, motto. Find yourself your confirmation verse and let that be your motto first. It was given to you by God, whether you like it or not. And then from there, find 2 or 3 others. Memorize them. Say them every morning. Find something like that. And soon enough, I'm going to be telling you about how, because I think it's something we got to be doing. In any case, for today, you have little faith. Dear Pastor Fisk, how are we to understand Jesus saying you have little faith? Matthew 6:30, 8:26, 14:31, 16:8, and Luke 12:28. Does he want to give us more faith or bigger faith? That's such an awesome question. So if you stick around long enough, you're going to hear me complain about 80% of translations. And it's probably not fair, and I'm probably over the top. Consider me a hyperbolic counterpunch to a rather dead orthodox system of Bible translation and understanding. A lot of our translations are either wooden or misguided. They display not so much a lack of understanding of the language of Greek as a lack of understanding of the Bible itself, right? And they're trying. There's a history of it, and you can't really make changes. It's all done by committee, yada, yada. Okay, so you have little faith, short up, is just a terrible translation. The word should be faithless. Without faith. You without faith. That's what it should be. Infinitesimal faith. Do you have faith? I'm not sure. I don't see any. It's kind of like that, right? And yes, he wants us to know we don't have any. Because in the moment I say, I don't have any faith, and I see Jesus there, I suddenly do have faith. Because I believed it when he told me I didn't, and then I see him, and he's enough, and he tells me he's enough. So what he wants you to do is acknowledge that you got nothing. If you had faith the size of a mustard seed, which is where you go in Matthew 17:20, if you had faith as small as a mustard seed, you could move a mountain into the sea, and I will wait. You go ahead. Go try. Call me. Send me an email when you've moved a mountain with your faith. I'm not talking about any symbolic gestures. That's nonsense. I moved a mountain. We had to raise money. No, nonsense. It's not what the text says. It doesn't say if you have to raise money. It says move a mountain or a tree into the sea. It will obey you. This is the guy who cursed a tree, and it died in front of him. So I don't think he's just speaking symbolically here. Sacramentarian. Yeah. The point of that parable itself is the faithlessness of all these other comments. You faithless one, do you even believe at all? And what he wants us to know is that that's what original sin means. To be an original sinner is to be faithless, which means to have trust not in God, but in false gods. Everyone's got trust. Faithlessness is trust in the wrong thing. And faithfulness, Christianity speaking, is trust in the right person or persons. So he wants us to know that we are born, we say, I'm born sinful and unclean. I am born with my trust in the wrong thing, me. And me is weak, and so I have to trust in something else too, so I trust in mom. Usually, right? And then maybe dad, and then friends, and then TV, internet, myself, philosophy teacher, everyone's following someone, listening to someone. No one's an island. But the point is, again, it's always moving our trust from one authority to another. And naturally, we do not move it to the true God in the person of Jesus Christ. We'll make up all sorts of other gods and call them the true God, and even get very close to mimicking him, angels of light and all that kind of stuff. But it is until we are unleashed by the condemnation of the words of Jesus Christ, gentle and strong and vivid as they are, until that acknowledgement that I have no faith, I can't have faith. Because faith then is not me having something. Faith is Jesus being trustworthy to me and its results upon me. And his continued fidelity to me refuses to let me be faithless. I can't be faithless. Now, I can. My theology teaches me it's possible to fall away too. But that's where Lutheranism really, if we're going to talk Lutheranism, is awkward. Because we do have two theologies at work, law and gospel. We believe they're both full systems of actively functioning Spirit of God. Creatively, upon the world even. So, understanding that too, I can fall away. It's possible, but not by the gospel. You never fall away by the gospel itself. You can abuse the gospel, but it's not the gospel's fault. It's your fault. Right. So in trying to put that circle of danger between law and gospel into an infographic, it's hard to do. Because like that other question earlier about, when do you baptize, it's just not that easy to be that clear all the time. And you end up in legal systems that you end up defending more than the actual thing because you have all these rules you made up that aren't even really that necessary at some point. Now, who cares what kind of water you use? People do. People did. For a baptism, does it really matter? Do I need it to be Perrier? Why not? So you have little faith. It means faithless. It's original sin. He's teaching original sin in the scriptures, faithlessness. And he's teaching the disciples that they must be replaced by a faithfulness, which he will give. Now, again, I got my paper right here. Let's just take a look at... I want to do Matthew 17:20 context, although that's not one of the ones you listed initially. So I kind of feel like I should take one of those. Let's take 8. I'm doing this randomly because I do not have this section memorized. Ooh. Right after the Sermon on the Mount, 26. You can hear the hammering upstairs? I hope you can. We're taking stuff off today. And he said to them, why are you afraid, oh, you have little faith? Oh, yeah, right. So he's in the middle of the storm. Oh, for goodness. They get into a boat. Disciples follow. arises a great storm. The boat is being swamped by the waves. He's asleep in the boat. What a thing. And they went and woke him. Save us, Lord, we are perishing. And he says, you're faithless. You're faithless. What good are you? Why are you afraid? You're afraid because you're faithless. And I'd imagine, that's Matthew. Does Mark have this? He might be cranky. And I don't blame him. Because why are they faithless? They're asking him to save them. Isn't that faithful? Well, they don't believe he will. They don't believe he's the Messiah. They don't believe he's going to die on a cross. Which he hasn't told them that one yet. Not in Matthew. But you see what I'm saying, though? Like, if they knew who he was, they wouldn't be worried about it. Like, he can't die in the boat. He's the Son of God. It's going to be fine. Cool. Wow. This is a roller coaster ride. Let's hang on and enjoy it, right? Whoa. And in some ways, we should apply that to real life. Now, you can fall out of the roller coaster and die in real life, but you're going to not fall out of the roller coaster and die in Christianity of real life, because though you die, yet you will live, right? So that adventure of letting the unleashed hope have its way with you in your decision-making, that's the thing. But, again, the point is, all this happens not because we muster up the willpower to believe, but as faithless ones, he saves us anyway, and then awakens us to a better thing, not just a little faith, but a complete faith, a total justification, an imputation of the entire thing, which both is entirely real and substantial, and yet also is only accessed by believing it to be true, which is it's a precise solving of the problem we had, to go back into that. So you list a bunch of the other ones there. I'm not going to go through all of them one by one, but hopefully that gives you enough meat to get through the rest of it. Logan says this, Fallout modding. We do have to tangent on that for half a moment. Oh no, the black hole of Fallout mods, that hits deep. Yes, it does. Never made them myself, but if you saw the thousands of hours I put into Fallout games, it would be a low-key embarrassing. Yeah. The cool news about that is when you're coding like that, you're building a skill set which you can use elsewhere. So it's not a complete waste of time unless you never intend to use a computer again, which, well, I wish. I don't know. That's all. I'm becoming a Luddite a little bit. So Jonathan says this, Broken in 2020. RevFisk, if you were to write Broken today instead of back then, what critical insights would you have taken from the most recent Star Wars trilogy? Yeah. Don't make any more Star Wars movies. Stop it, make it stop. It was better when it was dead. Oh my goodness. Yeah. However, I love the question about Broken in 2020 because my plan until COVID hit, but I think I'm still going to do this, is instead of trying to write an entire lectionary next year, although I would like to finish the Old Testament one some year, I'm going to just be connecting the insights of Broken throughout the year to the lectionary that I use, which I think I'm going to lean on the one year this year. So Broken for 2020 and the insights that I would just pull in general today and the way I would teach the book today is what you'll be getting from me from the pulpit-ish, but based on texts of scripture, as you know I do from the pulpit, throughout this next year. And we should be having preaching services and sermons back on the podcast and all that coming before too long here. In fact, I'm really going to be preaching next week finally for the first time in a public way. So we should get that stuff back out to you soon. So in any case, there is that. And part of me thinks, if you're interested for us here, whether you are pastors or lay, if you'd like to have something like that as a resource, I can't put a ton of work into it, but there are some things others have done I'll be pulling on that I could share with you as we go. If you'd like Mad Mondays to tell you what's coming, we'll get a week ahead of the whole thing. And you can make use of it in your parish. That'd be great. You're welcome to do that. Darth Mick again says, Amazon has made cities obsolete. Yeah, seems to be. It might make countries obsolete at a certain point, and that I ain't kidding about either. Get your gun. Doomcat says this. He said to them, but now let the one who has the money bag take it, and likewise a knapsack, and let the one who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. So is Jesus saying, get your money together, your kit, and buy a gun? Well, to his apostles at that moment, he was telling them to get ready to die. That's what he was telling them. Because then they come with like 2 swords. He's like, no, you're missing the point, guys. 2 is enough for all 12 of you. So I do not think you can take the words of Jesus and apply them to what you're supposed to do right now in America. You need to go to the Constitution and Jeremiah 29. Okay? Jeremiah says, seek the welfare of the city in which you dwell, for in its welfare you will find your own welfare while you are in exile until you are returned. And the diaspora of Christianity is a well-documented theology of the New Testament. So that means if you're a natural born United States citizen, that Constitution is what you better be doing. And you are sworn to the republic for which it stands and oath bound to protect it under God. So if that means you got to buy a gun because your Constitution tells you to protect your neighborhood and that's what you're supposed to do anyway, because that's just wise, well, then you buy a gun. But you don't make it Jesus' fault. You don't say, well, Jesus told me I had to buy a gun. No, that's how crazy people talk. No. Jesus said this about guns. He said, he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. Which isn't to say, like, if you're a Christian, you pick up a sword, you're going to get killed. No, where'd it come from again? No. This is Proverbs. This is wisdom. Jesus is so full of Proverbs and wisdom, and actually quoting it often too, although I don't know at this moment. But what he's saying is, if you're going to pick up a gun, get ready to be shot, because there's a good chance it happens. If you're going to pick up a sword, get ready to get stabbed. There's a good chance it happens, because if you're going to try to live by that weapon, somebody eventually is going to be better at it than you, and you're going to die. And what he was trying to teach his apostles at that moment, I believe, is that the real Christian weapon is not the sword, but the word. The real word, he is risen from the dead. And the spiritual belief and trust that clings to that sufficiency, that reality, that new world which is coming, that hope, against all other enemies, foreign and domestic. Yeah. That is a more powerful weapon than any other weapon you could pick up. Now, with that said, I own firearms, and I have practiced using them. I intend to practice using them more, because on the day that I have to stop bad people from hurting good people in my neighborhood, I don't think as a Christian I'm not supposed to do that. If my sheriff wants to set up a blockade to stop a riot, well, then I'd like to be able to, at least support him. Say, go, sheriff, do that. So that's not Jesus saying go buy a gun. It's just Jesus acknowledging that this world is filled with that. And if you're going to be in the realm of the fourth commandment, if you're going to be in the realm of the first article of institutions and power structures, then the rule of the sword is what's there, and it's there as a gift of God to preserve good and to hinder evil, which is why when you see the sword being used for evil, I would contend that your duty as a citizen, both as a father and then as an American, means you're supposed to try to stop it by any peaceful means possible. And then in the day that the whole country says stop it by violent means, well, you join that one too if you have to. No? Now, that's just my read on it. The point is, Jesus says, if you're going to pick up the sword in the name of your life, in your world, just prepare to die. And be ready for it. And don't complain when it happens. That's all that means. But he's really saying that to them then, because he's going to tell them they're going to die without swords. The apostles had it way worse. They were killed just for talking. Now, I don't think that we're supposed to have to let them do that to us here in the land we dwell in. Just because you have a foreign power come and say, you're all Christians, we're going to kill you, doesn't mean you have to put your guns down. And this is where the Templar information has been really interesting for me. And the kind of back and forth on that I've gotten from a number of you. The lies about the Templars continuing to be exposed for me, especially their early commitment to, honestly, just good, dutiful Christian living. As men, right? As men of arms who must protect from those who were bandits, pirates, and whatnot, and also just natural enemies. I mean, it's not like they were perfunctorily perfect, right? But Christians can pick up arms to defend their neighborhoods. It's okay. But Jesus isn't talking about that here at all, right? Where does Jesus talk about that? I'm not sure Jesus really brings that one up directly. Paul talks about it. And then, the Holy Spirit talks about it through Jeremiah. Talk through Paul too, I suppose. So, hey, you know what though? I'll tell you this. Years ago, I bought some silver. It was $19 per whatever amount you buy for $19. I bought it. Bought a bunch of it. Currently it's at $17.50. That's the highest it's been in a long time. 18. Hit 18 this week, really briefly. Something like that. You know what hasn't gotten cheaper than silver in that time? Ammunition. So, honestly, I am contemplating buying lead, and I mean it, not necessarily because I want to use it, just because I think it's going to retain its value, about as good as anything short of cryptocurrency. And as much as I have some cryptocurrency because I think you need to have something like it for whenever the collapse of the monetary system happens, I don't want to engage in it much now other than owning it. I don't want to buy and sell in it, none of that stuff, right? So, look, that's all crazy talk, right? I'm not a prepper. I'm not even a prepper. I'm just a guy. Right? But like, how do you not think about those things today? So, do you buy a gun? Yeah, it's an investment. Sure. Why not? It's a great thing to learn how to do. It's good for hunting eventually, especially if you live in certain areas, or killing a coyote. I don't know. Get out of the way, man. It is a normal part of American life, a normal part of life in the world if you could ever afford one. And we live in a country that lets you. So why wouldn't you? And again, I think Dr. Kuhn said it this way again: an armed society is a polite society. There's a reason for that. Jedi Knight Anakin has this one. He says, what you said about living with the tiger versus fighting or fleeing, that makes it so much sense for a spiritual battle too. That's right. Yeah, these flooded moments, you go back and forth between fight or flight, and then, in your head, you're like thinking things are so bad, right? The emotion's really deep, and then a lot of that, I think, is amplified just by like driving cars, right? And you don't think those are connected. It's because your body goes into this state that is, it's physical reality. When I talk about the first article being a big deal and the body being a big deal, we just don't realize that. You drive 30 minutes back and forth to work every day. You are doing a intense, hyper psychosocial thing to your body, to the chemistry of your body. And I'm not saying don't do it, but you gotta live with that. That's why if you can run after you get to work and then take a shower, you're gonna feel way better, right? No, you can't usually do that unless you work at Google and they're like fighting. I don't even follow it anymore. Anyway, so yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And your spiritual battles are gonna be part of that. Your depression is gonna be part of that. Being outside in the sunshine versus not, right? All that stuff. Robert T says this, it's been a challenge in public education, how to manage kids who are, because of trauma, in constant fight or flight or flee mode. Yeah, no wonder. Oh man. You think about all the drugs we keep putting them on, right? And I'm not going to say none of them need it. I know I was put on drugs that I didn't need those ones. When I was young. Ugh, I don't know. It's rough. And again, to me, that's where I'm just like, I'm not going to say I don't trust the experts at all. I'm going to go to the doctor. I went to the doctor. I got an infection. It's a weird infection. I'm not going to tell you about it, but I got an infection, and I can't even, in the move, I've not taken my antibiotics as much as I should. So that worries the crap out of me. Cause that's bad, right? Cause you just strengthen the bacteria at a certain point, and then it's harder to kill. But, I trusted the doctor. I went in, he's a surgeon that was maybe going to have to deal with it because it's a cyst basically. And he's going to have to deal with it. So it's like, he's like this, that, but we'll just do antibiotics first. I think I can do it, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I trusted him implicitly. He was in a white coat. He had a different skin color than me. I didn't really care much. Honestly, I maybe trusted him more, but maybe I should have trusted him less. And that's wrong on both counts. So it doesn't really matter. The point was, I took the prescription because I still believe he's an expert. But if I saw him on TV tonight talking about COVID, I don't know that I would trust him at all. I'm just done trusting most when they talk about it because it's just more nonsense or more of the same. So it's not that there's an end of experts, but experts are going to have to prove themselves, I think, a little more. And that's good. We need that. I've told you this before. I should show you the card. I have it written on a card that the goal of this YouTube stuff in part is to become famous enough that when I tell you that you think I'm speaking the truth just because it's on a screen, you'll believe me. And I'll tell you to stop listening to me and everybody else for that reason. Yeah? I want you to trust me. And I would say this tool is evil. And yeah, we need to use it. We need to engage it, but you do not want to be its friend. And I said that wrong though. The tool is not evil. It is not that video is evil, but those who are producing most of what you watch are. And though they aren't necessarily intentionally trying to destroy the world, individually, they all are accidentally trying to destroy the world. Like the rest of us, that's sin again, right? And the devil's the zeitgeist pushing the whole thing forward. So, Athanasius says, what do the protests tell you about the organization of racially minded community? Yeah. And what can we do with our causes? Well, that's the point. Yeah, I agree with you there. So what you can see from what Antifa has been able to do is what we could do as Lutherans if we want to do. We're about the same size. They might be smaller than us, actually. They have more money. How do you get the money? I don't know. How do you get the energy? Well, you got to believe in the cause. What's your cause? What's my cause? Stand upon the ruins, not wallow with those who have no hope. Be a Christian. Hold my 10 commandments, hold my creed, hold my Lord's Prayer. That generally is my small catechism. And I tend to like those Bill of Rights because I was born into them. I was under the king. I don't know if I'd fight for the king. But I'm under my king, and he says, the sword where you are is for good. And so I believe it. I'm a citizen of these here United States, and the Bill of Rights is a blessed thing. Very few people in history have had such a great nation given to them. So to make America great again, as long as the Bill of Rights is still there, It's a great nation. It's a great nation. Yeah. And I think as Lutherans, we can agree with that, or we should move. Right? Like, I don't know. So that brings us to the end of the grab bag. What are we looking at here? 10. Yeah, that was wrong. Totally wrong. So, comments. I know there's been a lot of super chat. We're going to go back, pick up all of that, and then maybe grab some more of your comments just straight out of the side. Jonathan says, is there a good way to become a pastor without going into debt? Yeah, it's called the SMP program. Move to Rockford. I'll help you. I'm not kidding. Talk to your pastor. There is a way to become a pastor where you are through your local congregation and your district president in your district and the seminaries all jointly working together. It takes a couple of years. You need to demonstrate a good reason for it. And I would listen to debt being a good reason for it, given that it is required that if you file for bankruptcy as a clergy member of the Missouri Synod, you more or less are removed from the roster. So starting out with $40,000 in debt's not a good way to stay on the roster. So that's a good argument, right? I think it's a good argument. So when I will make for two of my members, when and if they eventually get old enough to desire to pursue that program, you do still need a BA for that program, which is an interesting thing. And I'm not against it necessarily, at least historically, although times are interesting, aren't they? Yeah. So that's it. Talk to your pastor and move to Rockford. If you don't, he'll help you. He'll help you if you want to do it. The trick is you have to be permanently called to the place where you are currently at, except for that nobody really follows that rule. So that's the rule that nobody follows. So talk to your pastor. That's the way. Talk to your pastor. Where are we at here? Thanks for the super chat, by the way. Absolutely love it. I know there was some more up here. I do not want to leave them behind. Michelle jumps in and says, the curse of Babel is only overcome with Pentecost conversion. Amen. Addressing the curse in a vacuum is madness. Amen. Excuse me. That's what I'm doing, right? That's the whole point, is to feign the madness as David did, right? We're going to scream into the Philistine world the truth, and they won't even know it's happening. But I think at the same time, it will be a beacon for those who are elect, who will come to it. Neighbor love is the only middle ground, but nobody wants that answer. That's right. So moving into a neighborhood, I've thought about it a lot more this time. I've done it before. I've bought twice before, sold both when I had calls and moved. We moved quickly, didn't ever love the houses, but it's sort of what you have to do as a pastor. And it's awful, honestly. So we rented this time and we took our time. And so I'm pretty happy that we did that. That made a lot of sense. It loses money doing it that way. In any case, shouting into the white noise from this space is something that needs to happen, right? That's what we're doing together. We're trying to be louder than the white noise together. But I don't think you can actually defeat the white noise if you don't talk to the person who lives next door to you or just down the street. And so as I've moved into this neighborhood, I drive around it every day and I look at each house and I think about who lives there. And I look forward to meeting them and introducing myself. And I'll probably tell them about the church, but it's not really the point. The point is to tell them about how I'm here in case they have a problem. That's the point. Like if there's a problem in the neighborhood, please let me know. And are there other men in the neighborhood who are like this? I would like to be friends with those men. So if you point me out where they live, I'll talk to them first. Yeah. And doing that, because that's where civilization lives. Where are they burning? They're burning where they hate their neighbors. They're afraid of their neighbors. God, and then they're burning the ones that still loved them. Amazingly, the little mom and pop shops. This is brutal. Jedi Knight says this again. It's worth noting that national arrests for the past 3 weeks doesn't exceed the LA riots in the 90s. Interesting. So the TV makes it look like a civil war. It's not as bad as back then. Well, see, that's what someone else said to me recently. But they were talking about the 60s. I don't know though. I really don't know. I don't know who to believe. And it's Wag the Dog's fault. Oh, I did it again. Don't do that. Wag the dog. Oh, golly, this is so silly. If you're listening, I'm sorry. Why would it ever do that? And you can't get it out of your face. And if it's down there, I can't see it. Okay, so I don't know. The catalyst of the internet and Twitter, the organizational tactics. The Black Panthers were a thing, but they were not international. Is this? Russia? China? Mexico? Cartels, at least. I know what's outside my window. I'm going to make sure I know my neighbors. I know my church. I'm going to make sure I know my city. I'm going to vote for my governor. I'm going to vote for my president. I'm not going to try to start a revolution. I think I may eventually declare independence of my acre here, but that won't mean anything. It'll be just for fun. So I'm still going to fly a flag because I love this country. I love this country. My goodness. And I want to be a blessing to it. I think we Lutherans, once we can get over being Lutheran as an annoying thing and simply give people the gold that we have in the Bible, we're going to make such an impact on these neighborhoods, on these, again, communities like we used to. But the German movement of immigration and the Swedish movement too, I mean, they did it ethnically and for themselves. We are a generation of actual Americans, which is to say we don't have an ethnicity. Most of us. Some of you maybe do, but a lot of us don't. I'm not white. You call me white, it's offensive. I don't even know what that means. That's so offensive to me. I'm not white. I'm an American. Why do you care what color my skin is? I'm a guy who married a girl and has some kids, and I might live next to you. And if I do, I hope our boys can be friends and play on the same team, right? I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you got acne. I honestly don't even care if you're morbidly obese, although I think that's a health risk, and I would like to help you, right? But I do not think it matters so much what our histories were as ethnicities, because what makes an American American is the belief that, well, there's freedom in art, in your culture and your heritage, the nutcracker on your fireplace, or the urn you have in the corner, all these various things, assuming it's not hyper-religious. Like, these are beauty, and we want to have these. I want people to express themselves, even if it's putting a statue I don't like in your yard. It's fine. It's your yard. Yeah? That's what makes America great. And what we see going on right now is a bunch of people being told the solution is tear that down because it's racist. And I don't know how to buy that other than to say, you know what? I'm an American. I'm an American first. I'm a Norse Scotsman second. If that, not even that. I descend from it. There are biochemical things I should be aware of for my health monitoring and maybe even for my psychosis. And you too, whatever you are, wherever you're from. Like, those are important things, but honestly, when it comes to neighborhoods, they don't matter. And we're going to tear ourselves apart insisting they do in the name of stopping it. It's madness. Anyway, how did I get off on that one? Thanks, guys. That was good. Oh, the 90s. I got off that with the 90s, right? Well, I hope so. I hope it's all just normal again. I do. Although I'm not going to change my view because I think the sleeping dog, communism, fascism, Maoism, you call it whatever you want, Marxism, doesn't matter. Godless government. Godless government is what it means. It's not going away. It's been smart and playing a long game. And if this one doesn't work this time, I don't think they're stopping. I have no intention of going John Birch and counterpunching in any way. I want to go straight up public about it. This was such a good question. Someone asked me this. Here it is. Do we win the culture war or do we win at politics? And there's something really to this, that for the progressive left to do what they did. And by that, when I say progressive left, I mean aborting kids. I mean telling people that if you are any race whatsoever, you're worse than others and you should apologize for being in existence. That kind of thing, okay? So they got to the point where people are willing to believe that's true and bow before them. Jeez. By winning the culture war. And they did that with MTV. Go watch Datelines 2020 on, what was it? Merchants of Cool. Merchants of Cool. Was it Dateline? It's Dateline. Merchants of Cool. But doing it for a long time. It's intentional. So they're winning at politics now because they won the culture war to begin with. And so the question is, do we put more effort into winning the culture war now than trying to organize and be involved in politics? And I just think it's a false dichotomy. I mean, if you think that politics is different than culture, then you're just you're a dumb politician. Politics is culture. Dan Crenshaw is the future of conservatism. What is Dan Crenshaw? He's a man who understands who he is, right? He's a man who's not afraid to be distinct. That eye patch which I do not want that. I empathize with it. God bless him as a soldier for serving it. That eye patch will help him stay elected the rest of his life. And he knows it, I think. He's a smart man. Good. We need more of that. We need more of that everywhere. And that's kind of, again, my point, right? We need more wise as serpents from us, not believing the world's our friend. And I don't think you have to do anything else than that. But you got to stop believing the world's your friend. And stop believing that you can avoid death. That'd be good too. Right? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Do we win the culture war or do we win at politics? I think we win both. But I think now is the time when you have enough young voices. Honestly, I think you have enough young voices that are like, this is crazy. This can't be. That if you just gave them something simple and clear to cling to, they're going to be like, oh. Well, that's why you have to be in politics. Somebody does. Someone's got to be out there for us to look to and say, yeah, that guy says that and it makes sense, right? Someone's got to do it. And you just want to let all the atheists and pagans do it. You call yourself a Lutheran, whatever. No, we haven't thought about this for too long. Racism in the Lutheran Church. What about it? There's a history of it, because there's a history of it everywhere. What does it mean? I don't know what racism means anymore. If by racism you mean the thing I thought it meant when I thought Dr. King was speaking against it, it means considering any human to be less or more, good or evil, on the basis simply of their cultural heritage and background. That is, I see you, your color is different, you wear funny clothes, I hate you. That's wrong. We don't do that. Yeah? We don't want to do that. We want a world where that doesn't happen. So that reality of people doing that is built into nature itself as well, not as a good thing, but as a flaw, as sin. I would call that sin, that when you look at another human, the first thing you do is you judge. Right? You judge them. You have to. Is fight or flight. Right? Are they going to kill me or not? Right? And the evolutionists will say, this is all how you were evolved. I'm going to say you were supposed to judge them rightly. That is, when you would look at another human in paradise, you would immediately understand them. You would sum them up and it would be good. And they would appreciate anything you would say because it was all good to begin with. Now we don't have the good anymore, right? So now the judgment is they're bad this way, that way, this way. And usually it's because they're not like me, because I'm the semblance of good. I'm how I judge good. That's what sin does. Sin uses itself as the meter for good, and then calls anything that's not like itself bad. That's called idolatry, right? Yeah. Okay. So hopefully you're still with me on all this, right? All right. So in the history of us all being prejudiced against not me, all our lives, most humans, like 99%, end up in any brand new situation falling onto that default and not being like, not fight or flighty with regard to the brand new thing they have no experience with and they don't know if it's going to kill them or love them or who knows what. So we stare at whatever's new, always, anything. Right? Doesn't matter. So now you want people groups who have never seen each other to like not think each other are different and weird, or like not even, I mean, the history of humanity, again, killing itself, killing its brothers because we think we're different than each other is a long and vainglorious tradition. Yeah. But what needs to be important at the start here, again, is to say that kind of racism that is endemic in the system, it is systemic racism. You don't break that system down without annihilating humanity. When I say systemic, endemic in the system, that is a systemic racism, I mean systemic to the human heart. That the human heart does not like that which is not itself. And it will judge that which it perceives to be different with harshness and hatred. That's what we do from birth. Jesus, of course, teaches a different way and gives a better way, which is to seek not to hate the distinct, but to love, cherish, understand, grow with, alongside of, and become one with the distinct, not by both of you losing your distinction, but by things which are more unifying than either of you, namely Jesus, namely him. In the history of humanity being racist, has there been racism in the Lutheran Church? Yes! Still is. On both sides. I'm sorry. I mean, forgive me. But it doesn't matter who you are. If you're in the system of the LCMS, we have a system that segregates us. We are segregated on purpose, and we use it to call each other racist, back and forth. It's quite awful, and it's still here. How sad. And I certainly know that there are old Midwestern peoples of a paler skin tone who have existed and remained within the sphere of the LCMS as farmers or businessmen or who knows what, and they just never say much, but they still harbor post or pre-60s, pre-70s cultural thoughts. That's been there. You got a whole issue in places like South Africa and Australia where you have Aboriginal or Native church groups dealing with an Anglo-colonial church groups. It's hard to call any of that Lutheranism and then paint with a broad brush. So again, I'm just going to say in the history of everything, we hate each other. And in that regard, there have been Lutherans who were Christians who hated people wrongly and wrote it down. I think you can say that about everything, though. So I'm really not like ashamed of it. What I want to do is try to learn from the mistake, which doesn't mean tearing down the mistake. My favorite tweet from this morning probably was someone saying, have you noticed how the majority of all the statues getting taken down are Democrats? So the Democrats are taking down Democrat statues in the name of being anti-racist. But no, what they're really doing is they're erasing the history of their racism from the record publicly. It all makes sense. It's wicked. It's so wicked. Racism in the Lutheran Church. So we have a history of not being real good about it while also trying. So Lutherans as Germans, as a culture unit, transplanting from really difficult lives into really difficult farming lives in Midwestern land rush kind of stuff. It's not like there were a lot of places for them to engage with multiculturalism and understand differences or anything like that. They were trying to eat on the farm, right? 150 years ago, 200 years ago. So it's kind of hard to expect a lot of their development and their understanding to like expect someone who lived in the 1880s to have the insight you and I do post MLK. Like they haven't fought that war. How could they know? That's like asking someone to care about the Athanasian Creed when they've never understood the attack on Jesus' divinity that went on for the first 3 centuries. So of course they don't think it's interesting because they don't know the war, right? So how can you expect these various groups, and this goes not only for Lutherans and Germans, this goes for every single culture group that comes into America. You must expect them to be racist. They will be. You must expect them to be, and you must hope that we have and believe that we have something better, which is not to call it that, right? But to acknowledge that in America, when we engage with them, they are treated like everybody else. And eventually, once they get out of survival mode from landing in the ghettos, once they see that they can build a better life here, most people are pretty happy with it. I think most people don't want to tear down their own house. Huh? And they only do it when they're so worked into a froth, in which case they may have a point because maybe they've been abused that much, but it just makes me sad. I think they're just getting abused more. The problem is they're listening to the abuser and doing what the abuser says. So yeah, they've been abused a lot, and it's going to keep happening as long as they keep listening to the same political party that wants them to destroy themselves due to its racist origins. That's ridiculous. Who can believe any of it? I want to say this though too about racism in the Lutheran Church. I want to talk about the Simpsons and ethnicity. I mean, they ran into trouble for this. What was it? 1 year ago? 2 years ago? Because Apu, the Indian guy on Simpsons, I know he really hurt a kid's feeling. The kid grew up thinking that all Indians are like Apu, and since he was Indian, he must be like Apu. I don't understand quite how the Simpsons can become your sole moniker for understanding your identity, but that's a thing. I can get how looking at Homer and saying that's me, they're making fun of me, white male American, I could get offended at that. Or I can look around and realize the stereotype is kind of a thing. And what it is our cultures at work. And what you can see in The Simpsons, it can teach you how little you see the other cultures. So what you really saw there is how little you see whites for who they are. You think we're all like Homer, don't you? So that's what I got on that one. It's here. Prejudice is in our blood. I will be prejudiced toward mine and against yours. That's the definition of sin. I believe that's evil. I repent. I seek grace in the name of Jesus Christ. I believe his blood is sufficient to cover me. And in this regard, then, I want to do good even though my heart does incline to evil. And I want to tell you who keep screaming at me that I'm the racist, that you just lost the right to use that word, and I'm not going to use it anymore. You prejudiced bigot. Love ya. Love ya. Jedi Knight continues to engage, so I guess I got to keep going down. He says, radicals shut down the police. Oh, I didn't even talk about the police yet. How can it even be? The rich hire private security. Yep. Protests call for private security to be universal. Radicals create universal security care. Nothing new in the sun. Yeah, it's just a new form of police state, right, that they want to make. Do not let the cities in your region take over your counties. Get ready. Next 10 years, I mean, it maybe it fizzles and it's not a thing, but it's going to be quiet. It won't be by gun. But you're going to have these established new units that are going to be allowed to exist because we're too unwilling to stop it. And that's not my job to call that one. But if they're allowed to do this, then they will just use these as bases of operation to extend into the smaller communities around. Consider it, they're communist transplants. They're new nations. That's what they want to be. And until we recognize that, they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. They are a radical terrorist organization and agenda. Whatever, kill me. They can come kill me because I'm going to live. But I'm not going to let them take out my neighborhood. No. Nope. De blank. Oh, yay, cool. I'm the one bringing politics into the church. I'm dupes. Going to fall into the trap of the ELCA. Fisk being anti-white. Where am I being anti-white? I'm totally for me. Being white, I'm totally white. But I hate being white. I hate being called white. I'm Norse. Anyway, it seems to me a difference of definition, vocation. Oh, yeah. I've been is prejudice the blood of black people? It's in the blood of all people. This is just it. I love you, D Blank. You're great. You're going to make my point for me so many times. Thank you. You just keep writing. Please do. Is prejudice in the blood of black people, Fisk? Did you listen to a thing that I said? I don't think you did. And so I'm not going to let you be a jerk on my channel. You didn't listen to me. And now you're here to throw out sound bites. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God and are justified by his grace as a gift. You are a bigot, and you can leave this room. Here we go. You just talk. I'll just let you talk. You go ahead and convince us. I'm going to let you do it. You're not even listening. I'm telling everybody that the media is not trustworthy. And you're here to yell. And I'm not going to let that be the way we do it here. So feel free to leave. And when you want to engage, try engaging. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. All people are born prejudiced and unclean. Every single ethnicity. And I'll say, I'm the chief of sinners. Me, worst of all. But don't you dare tell me you're so pure, or anybody else's either. Because that's a denial of my religion, my most holy religion. I'm not going to sit back here and let your politics pretend to be apolitical and come in here and steal from us original sin. That makes me really angry. Because you are stealing from me the ability as a pastor to talk about the sinfulness of all people by making it a political game when I'm saying that should be the very thing we're not doing. And you're going to sit here in the comments and do that? You haven't listened. Yeah, of course he was. George Floyd was a serial criminal. Yes, he was. Why y'all? And I don't like being called white. It's not a race. It's not. There's no such thing. It's a lie. Anyway. Okay, D. Let's be friends. We'll be friends. I'll be nice now. I'll get over my anger. Okay. I don't like the word white because the word white does not describe me as an ethnicity. It describes a wide mass of half the planet. When you talk to Africans who move here, do they call themselves black? Have you noticed that they don't? Do you know what they call themselves? Well, wherever they came from. Somali, Lithuanian. Not Lithuanian. That's totally wrong. Libyan. There we go. Libyan. They call themselves what they are. So I refuse to let the U.S. Census or anywhere else make me the word white because I'm not white. There's nothing white about me. I am a Southern Californian Norseman ordained Christian. If you want to know who I am, like that, kinda, maybe, nerd, athlete. There's nothing about the word white and the lie the media wants to blame on that word that applies to me. I'm not going to let the lies the world's using about white people be what I think of myself as anymore. It is a failed language. White and black and racism, a failed language. I am virtue signaling, but I am not virtue signaling what you think I am. I'm on the other side. See, this is where you're just wrong. You're just so wrong. You're a racist. I use the word. You need to study the word race and its etymology. And I would encourage you, do you know Greek yet? Go look up the word ethne. If you don't know what you're talking about in the Bible. I don't hate what I am. I'm not white. I'm Norse. I'm Southern Californian. I don't hate what I am. I love what I am. I'm not some Aryan race nonsense crap. This is great, D. You're interesting. Okay, here we go. Move here from Africa mostly. No. Not when they're dealing with... Just go to Philly for a while. Oh my goodness. It's so divided. It's so divided. They do not lump themselves the way we do. Not at all. I don't think anything wrong with that. It's okay to be white. I didn't say it was not okay to be born with pale skin. I'm not going to use the political terms from the media that you claim to be not listening to. Yeah? Good, D, good. I'm still mad that you could not let me teach original sin without mishearing what I said as some sort of accusation against a particular racial group. Like, that's the problem, man. Like, we are not willing to let the nuance stand. That's why if you're going to listen to anybody who's out there right now, you really should be listening to Joe Rogan, Eric Weinstein, and Naval Ravikant, because they at least are concerned with making things still work and keeping truth alive, as opposed to network TV, which just wants you to keep paying for it. Yeah, sorry, I got rough, didn't I? I'm sorry, D. I was mad. That was not cool. Except this group, okay, I want disagreement in this group. I do not want rudeness in this group. So look. When you do this, and like, first off, this, D, come on, where are you? Hold on. I want to get this. Look, this here. Forget what you said. Okay. First off, you are being rather ignorant. I would say you just don't know the Bible at this point on this matter. But whenever you find yourself typing in all caps, whoever you are, wherever you are in life, regardless of your skin color, you should stop and remember what you said, but delete it and then rewrite it not in all caps. Because the moment you do this, no one's listening to you. We're not listening to you, even though, like, look what you're saying, but like, on top of it, look at how you're saying it. So you shut me off in terms of listening to you early on in the conversation. There you go. Boom. That wasn't even it. It was further back than that. Where did it go? Yeah, that one and this one, right? This is your first salvo? Wait. Well, I would love to own Hollywood. I'd use it for good. Yeah, right. So that's your opening salvo, right? Like, do you belong here? Like, are you a friend? Are you a neighbor? Do you have the right to have a voice? Because the thing is here, us hanging out here, yeah, it's a show, whatever. But no, it really isn't. Like, we're a community, right? So somehow through all of this, there's a lot of conversation taking place between you and each other. And the network ties into this moment in the week, right? And I'm the flapping fool in front of you all, right? But that's what's going on here. So if you want to engage as D and like really kind of bring your thoughts in here, you got to engage the whole group. You come in shouting and yelling and calling us all a bunch of idiots, no one's going to listen to you. I'm going to tell you to go away, because that's not how we do it. This corner of the internet does strive for civility. And if I've got to be the father and say, son, you don't belong here, then that's what I got to do, man. If you want to stick around, stick around. But you're going to just shout in the comments, like, just go home. Go home. Go find someone else to yell at. Because we don't need it. What we need is unity. And if you think I'm deceived by the media narrative, then why are you listening? Well, I guess you could shout and they can make their own decisions, because they will. So anyway, that was interesting. Watching from Canada. What do you think? Did I lose my temper too much? Was that bad? Call me to account. I need it this week. If I did not repent well enough, I would like to know. Yeah, that's it, Benji. This should be Illuminati, right? For this week. Caps don't help. That's the truth. Oh my goodness. Love the crucifix on the wall from Cal. It's up there twice. Yeah, that was a gift from Bethany Lutheran Church. Oh, this way. Bethany Lutheran Church in Naperville, Illinois. Going away present. It is a gorgeous crucifix, and I've never really found a good home for it. It just seemed to fit on the nail that was already there. And that's where it was hanging briefly before the move. So it may or may not remain. We'll see. We'll see if I put it somewhere else in the place. I like to be able to kiss them, and I can't kiss it where it is. And I know that's weird. I get it. I don't even know. I don't even know anymore. Let's see. Yes, thank you, Sarah. That'll be helpful to close up here a little bit. Sarah says, D started with the concept that you should not speak about politics because you're a pastor. It started about vocation, then he brought it into full-fledged race issues. Yeah, right. And so the LCMS official position has usually been that, right? Do not speak about politics as you're a pastor. And I finally have hit the point where I'm going to call that one a big fat lie. Straight up. It's just a lie. It's not in the Bible. So you go ahead and not do it if you want. But I'm pretty confident that the watchman on the walls is supposed to shout that the enemy's coming. And so as a pastor, I'm supposed to shout about enemies like communism, which is a false theology that wants to destroy everything, including Christianity. And I'm also supposed to, as a father and a citizen in my neighborhood who is part of the American, citizenry, I'm supposed to defend my neighborhood, care for my neighbors, care about my local community, be pro-life, be pro-Bill of Rights. Honestly, I'm supposed to be all these things. It's my job. It's my duty as a citizen. So you can sit here and tell me it's not my job, but until you give me some Bible verses that are like, you should not be a good citizen, I'm going to have a lot of trouble listening to you. And I know your LCMS pastors from like a generation just parroted this. Well, we just don't get involved. Yeah. It's how the Nazis took over, guys. I mean, really. It wasn't only the Lutherans, it was the Reformed too. But that quietism we are rightly accused of as Lutherans, and I'll just go ahead and say it's why no one listens to us. We hide. We use our theology to hide in safety and security and live to fight another day. So you go ahead and believe what you want to believe on that one. I believe that every human being should be a good person. And if that means that you can be a good mayor, then you should be a good mayor. And I'm pretty confident that as a pastor, I should tell that to little boys and, well, little boys. We can talk about that one another time. Yeah. Nice. This is good. D says, I know my tone may not be edifying. Well, should I just make it go away then? Or do you want me to hear the rest of it? I mean it. I'm like, this is a teaching moment, D. Come on. Right. Well, do you want me to hear it and share it with people? Because if it's edifying, I'll share it all the time. I don't put away the edifying. And I love the counter. I want to know who disagrees. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you, but I want to know if you do. There needs to be a serious counter narrative to this fake media narrative that our people are gulping like hotcakes. Now, who are our people? Who is the fake media? Which one? See, if you really think there is a fake media, I think you're, again, very ignorant and listening to a lot of media. There's no such thing as the media. There's a bunch of them. Some of them are friends, some of them aren't. They're all playing the same money game. That's really what they're doing. And excuse me, but I think my entire show is based on a premise of being a counter narrative to the fake media narrative. So I just don't even know. Are you new? Welcome. I can't get more against the media narrative without like lying, I don't think. I just don't know how I would do it. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, that's good. Really? Where is that in the Bible? Where's it in the Confessions? Where's it in Peeper? Show me. That's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. You don't even know what the word politics means. Go look it up. I'm done with you for today, D. If you come back and you learn what the word politics means, I'll have the conversation. You don't even know what the word politics means. You are soundbiting your way into ignominy. Politics is the care of your city. And if Christians stop caring for their city, oh wait. So, well, thanks, Brian. Hey, can you come on right now? Can you set up a Zoom with me? I can get you on if you can Zoom me. Give me a link. New studio. Yeah, it's in the works. It's not even done yet, but I got enough up that I could run it this morning. Oh man, the house. I can't believe how well prepared this place is for me. This room is so cool. I'm just looking. I like this whole space. What can I show you? I'm going to mess up the shot, but we'll go ahead and do it here. Assuming I got everything where I need it. So like, I'm in the furthest corner of my room right now. And right here to the side, you can flip over and there's Jesus. You saw Jesus a moment ago. There's just some stuff. Saturday, out the window. Oh, big light bulb. And then there's you guys. So like, I've got another standing desk over there because this is a standing desk right here that I'm standing on, right? And then that's pretty sweet. I like that. But then this is a nonsense mess over there. See that? This is craziness. So there's a lot of space here. And my intention is to set it up so that this corner, actually I could, hold on. Don't do that again. I'm away from the mic, but you can see a little further back now, right, where the setup is in the room. But this is just I had a day to figure this out, right? I'm pretty sure I want to keep this part of the studio for the mornings over here in the corner. I can mess with it, put a green screen up here, and I'm going to have a permanent something and then a green screen as well that'll pull across it. And then, workload is on the other side. And then the far side of the room, I want to have be set up for entertainment, but also with more mics that come out of the ceiling so we could have like a guest come over and dialogue in chairs and whatnot. But so yeah, it's exciting, Brian. Thank you for being excited about it. I just like having a space that I can really stretch out in. Family of 7, renting, homes as big as you can rent for a little while. Yeah. So to have a room that's really just my room is a blessing, and surprising too, because most of the houses we were looking at in the area in this price range had 3 rooms, and this one happened to have 4 plus this room, which was like, wow. So anyhow, cool stuff. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah. What? Oh, good. So now we can counter the don't talk about politics with what is my political affiliation? Well, I don't know. Apparently I learned today that if you're going to run for politics, you shouldn't have one. So should I run for politics? I don't want to. I would hate that job so much, but I want to encourage you to. And in that regard, I think you need to think about your question of political affiliation pretty carefully. Clearly, if you're going to get on a ticket easily, you need to declare Republican or Democrat. Even though both of those parties and their platforms are just kind of obese, right, and cannot ever begin to represent the many various needs of this civilization. But with all that said, the pro-life movement has always been the most important one to me, because I think if you are allowed to kill people, then everything else is pretty much fair game. And so while people say I'm not a single issue voter, they don't realize that they're just ignoring all the other issues at the same time, because they're setting up a precedent for killing people, which will eventually come back and bite the civilization. So I tend to vote pro-life. And indeed, there are a rare Democratic pro-life individual, and there's even a movement within the party to say we have a right to be in the party. I'd call that a pretty futile movement myself, but that hardly means I just check red all the way down the line. I probably did register Republican here in Illinois. I think they made me. Although I'm a big fan of, and I'm thinking about re-registering as a Democrat, just to be able to vote in all their stuff, because they got the worstest rules ever. So why not tinker with that? Because they hate you. I don't care, right? I'm going to go vote. But I do not affiliate with the party, even though I register as Republican for the vote in the primary. You would call me an independent, libertarian, true Republican, if by Republican you mean I believe in the Constitution. I'm a constitutionalist. Yeah. And neither of the parties represent that very well, although the Republican Party has a room for us to sit there and they'll pat us on the head and tell us they swear they're helping us. So for what it's worth. But that's the thing where, so as a pastor, this is important. So the comment about, pastors shouldn't talk about this, I think that's just so weird. That's like the don't ask, don't tell stuff. It's just really kind of odd. It's unhealthy. Like, what are you hiding, right? Shouldn't we all be able to talk about the politics and disagree and go to church? Or do you care more about this world than the world to come? Well, there's that, I suppose. So, for what it's worth, I think it's helpful to know your pastor's politics, because there's no way he's not going to be. The idea that you could not be influenced by your thinking about the world, which is what politics is, that you could not be influenced by that or ever talk about it. Yeah, no wonder you got boring sermons no one wants to listen to. You can't talk. And it's not about who you're going to vote for. It's about what truth is. Is it right to burn down cities when people are executed? Is it right to execute criminals who are mass offenders who continually cause violent crime? Is it right to have, the mafia in charge of the police recording white guys doing mafia hits and then letting it get out in order to start riots? Oh, wait. I don't know. Do you? You're so sure. And then you want to accuse me of not believing the media narrative. Oh, goodness gracious. 10 minutes behind, Monica. I'm sorry to hear that. Let's see. Why are we using kosher as derogatory? Oh, did I do that? I'm sorry. I don't intend to do that. Oh, here we go. That's why. Because it's D. That's why. D. You got to calm down. You got to calm down. You got to calm down. We're almost listening to you now, but you're kind of over the top. So I'm gonna let you guys play with D in the corner. That's great. I don't know here. Let's see. Let's do this though. We'll go back to D for this. Look, what does that mean to preach Christ? What does that mean? Do we? Do we really? Are we a bastion of orthodoxy? I mean, the world just doesn't listen because we're so right? That's what it is. I am not so convinced we preach as good as we think we do. Every pastor knows he doesn't like all the other pastors' sermons. But there's that. We're just all prideful too, but if you think you can preach Christ and not talk about the unborn and how killing them is wrong, I just don't know. You don't have a church worth joining. It's not a church. Christ did not send us to save the world. He sent us to speak the truth to the world and to expect it to kill us for it. They're not trying to kill us for it. They don't care about us. They'll ignore the LCMS forever. That's not a good sign. Sign Up to Die by Thistle. I got that one out of this morning. If someone tries to kill me because I'm white and I defend myself, does that make me a racist? Why is it different? If someone tells lies about me because I'm white, why can't I defend myself then? Or say, that's not even what I am. That's not my label. Call me a mad Christian. Win the culture or win the politics. There's no difference. It's the city. Win the city. You must own the streets. We don't own some of our streets anymore in America. If you're afraid of your street, where are you going to go? Racism in the Lutheran Church versus ethnicity in The Simpsons. It's been a good morning, guys. I hope you have enjoyed Chill in its trueness and most unexpectedness. Yeah, 3 dislikes, that's enough. Again, Wolfmuller, if he's still here, tells me that I need lots of dislikes. Otherwise, I am not really in the algorithm. So the more you can like the show as you go on your way, that'd be great. The more you can share it, that'd be great, because then we'll get more dislikes and we can have more good conversations as a result of all them dislikings. I hate to end the show because you guys are having such a good conversation with D over there. I definitely will play the close stuff. You got a couple minutes for that there, but as I continue to look at my room and remember that I've got to do church tonight, well, the show must go on in other places. We'll see you all soon enough. There will be a show with me and Wolfmuller next week coming out on Thursday. There will be a Mad Mondays newsletter. Please sign up for it. If you like what I do and don't think I'm crazy, but think I'm crazy in all the right ways, you can support me on Patreon. That is a huge, huge deal for us. And I'm forgetting one, but that's all right. It's all on the website and it's all in the links below. You enjoy your Saturday. Hey, don't let the muck make you too crazy. It's not about being safe. It's about being a good neighbor. And the more that you're set free by the knowledge that in Christ you can't die, the more defending your neighbor and their good just becomes worth doing. You don't have to think about you per se. You don't have to think about, was I right? Was I wrong? Am I good enough? Now, you're going to have those thoughts too. Our psychosis is always going to hit us with those. But on the other side of that, you have this, Christ is sufficient. I am baptized into Christ. I will walk out my door. And then when you don't know who to trust anymore, again, your neighbor's right there. God gave you them, the one you see in front of you. Real Christianity, it doesn't just say love your neighbor because that's right. It actually goes and says, hi, how are you? How can I make our neighborhood better for you? If the Lutheran Layman's Local Action Network all does that, we'll leave a mark. You better believe we'll leave a mark like you would not ever expect. So more of that coming, I got to get Got to get a place to sit in this room still. That's the first thing Kuntz said. He comes in, he goes, is there nowhere to sit? Well, you know what, blank? You can't stop me. Done. Oh, I can't read it to you, but I'll tell you this. I wrote it 5-6 days ago. I will not sit idly by and watch my country burn. No, they did it in Germany. I'm not going to do it here. No. I'm going to talk about it. And if it's all a lie, and it's all false, and it's all peace, then we're good. Then I'm just a crazy prophet. Whatever. I just said it's scary. But it's scary. And I'm not going to sit back and tell people that they're wrong for acknowledging that. So thanks for joining us. D. You may find your way into our midst yet. Yeah, I hope so. The rest of you, I hate turning off the show. I don't have, you tell me. In your next contact, if you write one, tell me, how should I end the show? Rock on, wall in the muck. Give me a write-up. I wrote it up once upon a time, and I've lost it now. And so, I don't know. I just feel like it's weird. I'm on a tangent here again. I read something years ago, or saw it at least, about how people were finding the internet made them more willing to confess. They were willing to talk about things openly. And it's weird, like being on the microphone, and like you keep watching, like I just keep talking. It is interesting how drawing it is to be open. And there's a danger with that, honestly. I mean, I'm letting you know a lot about me. Talk about, what LCMS pastors are allowed to do and not allowed to do and all that. I always am trying to walk within the peace and the harmony of the order that I'm in. And so I don't want to disturb the LCMS, but I do want to call the LCMS to account on this. Like our position that pastors shouldn't talk about the city is just wrong. It's just dead wrong. And we can't stand on that anymore. And the Lutheran Laymen's Local Action Network is going to exist for that reason. Not to be a party. I mean, no. Which party will it affiliate with? Neither of them. It will not affiliate with a party. It will either be its own party or it will be a lobby. And its intention is to lobby on issues, not on identities. And the issues are pro-life and pro-creation and environment and pro-neighborhood, which means pro-Bill of Rights, which means pro-10 Commandments. It's not that tough, right? We should all be able to agree with that. How is that talking about politics? That's not in some sort of like Fox News, CNN way. It's not talking about politics. It's talking about Christianity. And it's honestly, it's time, guys. It's time to stop letting the nonsense that D is speaking take away our being Christians in our neighborhoods. And take away our pastors as those who equip us to do this. Now, yeah, if you're going to fly the American flag in your sanctuary, I think you're weird. And we all do it. It's wrong. But there's no reason why you can't fly it on your street corner. In fact, you should, because you're an American citizen, and that's what Jeremiah 29 says you should do. So, D, Jeremiah 29, man. Lady, whoever you are. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, everybody else. Hey, it's crazy here. That's the point. Don't wallow in the muck with those who have no hope. Stand upon these ruins and be certain. The day is coming soon. And on that day, when Jesus comes with all his hosts and the dragon is seen cast down into the sea and our baptisms express themselves as lightning blue, glorious resurrection. I don't know if it'll be blue. I imagine it's blue. On that day, all of this will be but one more part of the glorious song we sing of thanks and praise for the days and the day, the Joshua Christus, Jesus Christ, the Lord that he's made. So this is it again. He died today. He rose today. You're in him forever. Nothing can take you from that endless resurrection. So on this Saturday morning, afternoon, well, you can chill. You can go get something good done. Yeah. Until next time, we'll catch you. Rock on. Oh, almost hit the wrong button. Rock on. Did Brian actually go to get on Zoom? I just saw it in the comments. That's awesome. So did he really do it? Okay, so did he text me? Hold on. We can do that. I'm going to have to take a break. Oh, okay. Okay, so Brian, someone tell Brian, I'm working on it. Oh, low battery, of course. Of courses. Okay, so I'm here if you want me to jump in. Okay, but I need a Zoom, Brian. Is he sending me a link? Does anybody know? So what I will do, I'm going to do this. We are not ending the show. I was wrong. Stay. You're going to get Wolfmeal this morning. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take a little break, use the boys' room, return, hopefully have Brian on Zoom. Is 3 minutes enough? We shall see. chaos. Are we here? Hold on. We're on Earth. Yeah, there. Are we? What did Ecamm just do? Okay. There's Zoom. I have Zoom somewhere. There's Zoom. Okay. I am live still, right? I'm pretty sure I am. I'm attempting to get a Zoom meeting going for Brian because I do not see anything coming from him. And I had it, and then I lost it because it looked too much like Ecamm. Oh, for pity's sakes. And my screen is all off. Zoom, where are you? Come to me. No. Well, back to music. Here we go. One more time. I got Brian on the line here. I don't know that he's actually seen or heard by you yet, so give me one more second to try to figure this out. We're going to get there. I just need to have Brian be what my screen share is. Let's see here, and we can do that. I think like this. Nope, that was close though. We were real close. It's going to be one more down like that, and then the question will be whether they can hear you. So go ahead and laugh for me or something. Nope. But this will do it here. This should do it right now. Go for it.
Chris says that I want to use the platform to promote Table Talk.
I'm sure you do.
That's right.
I'm sure you do. Let's see. Your face is still not on the screen. I got to move Zoom, and I can't get to Zoom to move it because it's under so many other things. Come on, Zoom. Help me.
Come on, Zoom.
It's really Windows as a way of managing your... There you are on the screen. Now I think the world can see Brian in a little half of my face twice. Okay, we'll shift it. No,
I'm watching the video, and it looks like everyone can see you and half of my face.
Yep. It should fix itself in a moment. You're probably watching a split second behind.
Okay.
All right. So anybody who's in the comments and has questions for Brian, I'm happy to share them with you. Brian, right now, Caleb says you're awesome because you're awesome. Welcome to the conversation. So there you go.
Thanks.
Straight up. As opposed to Cafe Sola saying the platform, because you love the audience of Jonathan Fisk, says Nefarious and whatnot. If you have any actual questions for Brian this morning or for Brian and I together, or maybe I'll just throw this one at you, Brian. Politics. Someone says Lutheran pastors shouldn't talk about politics. I said, please let me. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, how can you not talk about politics? I mean, this is one of the things that happened in the Reformation, right, was that there was this idea of the three estates, that you lived, either you were part of those who pray, those who work, or those who fight. And that construct, the sort of siloing of vocation, was broken down when the monasteries fell down, and Luther realizes, look, all of us are in all three estates. We're all living in the family and in the home, which is a castle, and in the state, and in the church. And so we're all involved in all of life. It's one of the geniuses of the Lutheran Reformation. So we engage. We're all citizens. We're all part of the polis, and that's the way that we love.
Have you noticed Lutheran dogmatics? I don't think this is the intention. I think the intention was to categorize for easy understanding. But I think what can happen is that we get these dogmatic formula like two kingdoms, a right hand and a left hand, and we treat them like they're universals, like they're just kind of the end-all, be-all, only thought the Bible gave us, and forget that their connection to the network or the system of knowing God in the Scriptures means that they may not always have full application, that there's nuance. And what you're talking about right there, again, is the nuance of, in some civilizations, you might be a warrior and a priest because that's what the civilization expects of its men. And in some civilizations, you might not be allowed to be a warrior unless you're in that caste because that's what some civilizations expect of their men. We're in a really unique civilization where they don't expect anything of their men.
That is bad. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go with this. But one of them
I think what I just said is the most profound one. I'm not kidding. Like really, we're like the only civilization that doesn't expect anything of our men. We're no wonder we're destroying ourselves.
So,
anyway.
So I've told you these stories before because I was studying. I was in an anthropology class in college, and one of the things that they do is they talk about the coming of age ceremony, where like if you live in Africa, they send you out with a stick to kill a lion, and they're like, "Don't come back till you have like a lion hide, and then we know you can be useful." And I thought, what do we have like? So there's all these coming of age ceremonies for the men. And I thought, what do we have that's like that?
World of Warcraft.
When I realized that, I'm like, okay, I dropped out of college. I got a backpack. I went and walked around Israel for
right, to become a man. You've told me that story.
Yeah, to become a man. That's you thought it's so funny, but when I told you that, but that's the idea. It's like you got
just that anyone would set out to become a man is it was funny to me because part of me just assumed that's what we are, right? Like you grow up, you become a man, but the framework we give it of that we have no rite of passage, aside from maybe high school sports, we have no rite of passage as a civilization. Right. That you saw that so long ago is prophetic, really.
You gotta, so you can't haul other people around on your shoulders if you can't manage your own shoulders. Right.
1 Timothy 3.
So anyway, there's got to be some strength. There's some strength training for masculinity, and so there you go.
We had a request to make you louder, and I have now done so. They don't understand. I want to keep you a little quieter than me, so they will respect me more than you subtly. They don't see how it works like that. So
that's right.
You got me a super chat. Drecky says this: TTR all the way. Pastor Wolfmuller, what's the possibility of me dropping by sometime while I'm on vicarage in Texas? I wish we'd been able to have coffee, tea more than that one time. This is Drecky Brinney. Do you know Drecky Brinney? Apparently you've had coffee or tea once. So,
is that a real name?
I don't know. It's what it says. Drecky Brinney.
Yeah, of course. Drop by. Everybody's welcome.
I mean, I think they're suspect because they said Table Talk Radio all the way, and anybody who would say that clearly has not listened to the show. So
that's fake news, right?
That's right. It is fake news. What is the genesis of that joke? I mean, we did have that conversation kind of privately, you and I, about how not everyone gets the joke. And so I can sometimes put my foot in it and I'm in the wrong context making the joke. But where'd that come from with you and Evan? I mean, just mocking the show.
So we started. So for whatever reason, my own personality invites mockery. I'm proud of that.
I didn't know that.
So you're not alone. Well. I mean, when people make fun, everybody makes fun of me. It's probably from Carrie who makes fun of me.
You make fun of yourself.
Well, it's a lot of material there.
That's good.
But when we started Table Talk Radio, this was intentional. I said to Evan, you make fun of me. He was just a seminarian.
Yeah, right.
I said, you make fun of me and I'll make fun of our show.
That's good.
And so I didn't want to make fun of him.
Yeah, right.
Because he's just a seminarian.
Yeah, poor little guy. Yeah, right. I know. That's good.
So we gave up that. I mean, now we just both make fun of everything within our reach.
Yeah, right.
But that's how it started. So,
I didn't know that is something that you have. I remember years ago, this is WeTV days, when there was a meme going around that it said, please be nice to Brian Wolfmuller, because somebody thought you were, and it was your friend like promoting you. It wasn't me, I don't think, at that point, but someone thought you were everyone was ganging up on you. They wanted to defend you. And,
some people are just like that. They're just like, they just sort of, it's like, I can make fun of that guy and it'll be great.
And they don't mind it.
It's like when I was a kid and I would see a wall that didn't have a window on it, I'd be like, I could throw a ball at that. That's what I want to.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's so, I mean, I'm trying to teach my kids to be made fun of and laugh at it.
Yeah.
Because I used to get made fun of and get whiny about it, and that didn't help. That made it worse.
No. Yeah,
So,
that's
and when I finally learned to laugh at it in myself, I kind of don't mind it so much. And then, but seeing it in my kids too, it's like, how do you teach him? He's got to like laugh all the time, basically, not take everything so seriously.
right. That's right. Well, I noticed this though. Here's a story. It was at seminary. We're getting ready to go on vicarage, and so they had all the district presidents around. President Lindemann was the district president of Texas, and I was coming down to Texas on vicarage. I came down to Waco, and I asked him. I said, "What's the biggest problem in the church today?" That's before I didn't realize that question would probably make Jesus mad. Because it's like asking a guy, like, "What's the biggest problem with your wife?" You know, you just don't ask that kind of question. But anyway, I was still asking. I didn't understand it. So, but he gave this great answer. I mean, it was really obnoxious. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting. But he said, well, we got too many pastors that don't have a sense of humor.
Yeah. It's the truth, though.
Oh, man. And so I realized that there's a way. I read this G.K. Chesterton quote. It said that modernity has humility in the wrong place. We're supposed to be humble about ourselves and confident in our doctrine and theology. And we've switched it. We have a humility when it comes to truth and a pride when it comes to self.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're trying to do on Table Talk is reverse that. We want to be confident in the doctrine, but we want to be very not serious about our own personality. So you want to like insult me or say that I have a unibrow?
Do you?
Almost.
Nah, you don't even.
You caught me about to go trim the trees.
Yeah, that's good.
See,
Trees need trimming.
It's
Oh,
like
I just see. Oh, yeah, it is growing there. That's cool.
It's like a.
You get some wax on that thing.
I'm underlining the brain.
That's good. I like that too. That's good.
You just got to roll with the punches.
Hey, check it out. I'll show you mine. So like on here, on this little pretend thing I have, like literally, which side is it? It's which side is it? One of these sides is this one. Like it literally doesn't grow in a whole patch. I have to grow. It's right here. There's a hole in the middle of it, and it all has to grow around it. So it's taken so long to grow this nice scraggly beard just to pretend to have one. And you can grow one on your forehead. It's not fair. It's not fair.
You know, one time, so when I used to go to Australia when I was in high school. It worked for this company called Rustic Pathways. We did this outback kind of, it was wild stuff. And so every summer I'd shave my head, and it just so I wouldn't have to worry about washing it. But I had the best haircut I ever had. I shaved my head except for this little tuft, like this little 2-inch tuft right in the front. And then I would put it out like a unicorn horn, or sometimes I would part it down the middle, and it looked like I had a mustache right on the top of my forehead.
What do you do? How old were you with this?
I don't know, 18.
Okay,
17,
unicorn horn. I don't know about the unicorn horn. You made me think of comedy too there a moment ago. You always make me think of comedy. Have you tried doing stand-up again since the first time?
No.
Why not?
I mean, okay, I have thought about it.
Okay.
It was so much work.
Yeah, I imagine
don't know how many hours I spent into that little 20 minutes of comedy.
Yeah.
But here's the problem.
That's why they do it over and over again. They do the same show over and over again once they get it good.
I know. Once you get a joke, once you hit on it, and you have to practice it. And I mean, I remember driving on the train to Chicago, like from the airport on the train out there to Naperville. And I was practicing the routine practicing. I probably forgot in the moment about 40% of the jokes that I had.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and I found when we were moving, I found a file of that comedy routine stuff. And I probably had 70 pages of notes to get down to that. But here's the problem. One of the jokes that I told, which was not that funny, was about how people hear you wrong. And so there was a story about, and this is a true thing that happened. I was teaching Bible class, and after Bible class one time, this couple came up to me and they said, "Pastor, we've got passion." And I said, "Oh, I'm glad for that. But why are you telling me?" And they said, "Well, because you said in your Sunday school class that there's no freaking passion." And I said, "I didn't say that." And they said, "Yeah, you said it right at the end." And I said, "No, there's no free compassion." So I said, "There's no free compassion." And they heard There's
freaking
no
passion.
freaking
That's awesome.
passion.
That's awesome. Nazmo King, man. Nazmo
So
King.
I'm
That's
telling
awesome.
that joke on my comedy, and it sounds like instead of saying freaking, that I dropped the F-bomb.
Yeah, right.
So people in the comments, and so the irony of the thing is I'm telling a joke about how people don't hear what you're saying right, and they didn't. But I went back and listened, and it sounds like it. It sounds like I'm swearing.
Well, you have to do stand-up comedy, don't you?
And I'm against that. Like people who know me, just even in casual conversation, I'm trying to be very, very clean,
limited
in my whole conversation.
Yeah.
And so that but it sounds like it. The recording sounds like it. And there's been twice that people have told me we were watching your stuff and listening to your stuff, and then we watched that.
Whose channel is that on?
It's on
Bethany's?
Steadfast.
You could have them put a little clip on that.
I've asked them to take it down so I had two people who finally came to church, but they're like, we didn't come to your church for like 6 months because we watched that comedy routine and saw you drop the F-bomb. I'm like, man.
It's hilarious, though.
Can you? That really trouble. So I've
no,
tried
it shouldn't trouble you. It shouldn't trouble you. No,
down,
it shouldn't trouble you. It shouldn't trouble you because the Lord's going to use that. The Lord's going to use that. But you're right. It should get taken down if you don't want it out there with your name on it. Don't let it trouble your conscience. It is what it is. It's a misunderstanding. It's bad.
Can you imagine that? I mean, it's like so many ironies.
It is ironic. You're trying to make the point, and you made the point by making the point. I tell my people here this. So I start a year of exile and return, a year in the Old Testament, a lectionary I will develop. And before the year's over, we can't go to church because we're in exile. And so now we're in exile and return, and we're going to come back and actually return from exile as the pinnacle of exile and return, a year of the Old Testament. You couldn't plan that. No.
Yeah.
I really didn't want it either, by the way. But we've had to I've tried to emphasize how that wasn't just a joke. Like, we've had to deal with what an exile feels like, even though we've kept our 10-person services. Like, imagine losing all of it, being taken to another country, right? We've been put into similar enough emotions that for us locally, I think it's been really beneficial, and that our return is going to make our loving of our church pretty powerful. I mean, we're doing a big picnic in a week and a half, I guess a week from tomorrow, and it'll be our kickoff, get back together thing, and I think it's gonna be potent times. What are you guys doing? Are you opening up, whatever that means?
Yeah. We have services we have 2 services on Sunday afternoon starting this Sunday with 75 people.
Afternoon, huh?
Yeah, 1 o'clock and 2:30.
What's in the morning? Just the broadcast?
We have the live. So in the morning we have the recorded service that premieres.
Right.
And everyone kind of gathers around that, and then we have a 10:30 Zoom Bible study.
Okay.
And so we're at some point we're going to go back to the morning service. So that'll be good, but there's enough people nervous about it that we wanted to keep the sort of that. It's kind of weird that the online service is, I mean, not theologically, but practically is like the main thing. And the communion services are, again, not theologically, but practically like supplemental.
Right.
And then we got to make that flip.
Yeah.
And when we make that flip, so the church wants to continue, the elders and the whole congregation wants to continue the kind of produced service, but it won't be premiered on Sunday morning and things like this. So we're kind of ramping up to so how can we have the in-person service is the main thing, but we have these kind of online supplementals.
Right.
So we're kind of problem solving through that.
Yeah. More or less the same thing here, only we're already in the order I want them in. So like we instituted these private services, and 10 people or less, and highly controlled for risk assessment. And we're going to be keeping them. Like, as we open up again, we're going to always have 4 to 5 p.m. Saturdays if you want it. And then we'll have a early morning Sundays as well slot if you want it, if that's what you need. We're going to provide that for you. We're also going to try to get back to the main thing being the main thing as soon as we can, and not, build on it. And some of the Zoom stuff too. I mean, I've got a Zoom group for young married couples that I'm working with now, mostly all local. And I don't want to let go of that. That's been fantastic.
Yeah,
that developed.
I do. So same. We started our worldwide Bible class,
right?
Which
I promised to go to and never did.
Great. I mean, it's
I've
amazing.
heard good things. I've heard really good things.
It's great. And we have our Wednesday night. So we used to have Wednesday night. We'd have a little prayer service, 30-minute evening prayer, and then choir would meet, and the bells would meet. And before that, I had a Bible study met at 4:00. But a lot of people couldn't come to it. Just we're downtown and the traffic is miserable.
It's hard to get there. Right.
So they're like, so we have twice as many people coming to the evening Zoom stuff.
Yeah. Right. They show up to it. Yep.
So I don't know. We're trying to sort that out. It's an interesting problem to have because, I mean, it probably has to do with your LMAO or whatever the
LLLAN.
Okay.
Think of your LAN network on your computer, right? It's your Lutheran LAN network. Lutheran LAN.
Is that there's a way to kind of start to connect those sorts of things like
I
this.
think
So we're gonna try our men's morning Bible study, which we're gonna try that on Zoom in 2 weeks.
Cool. That sounds good too. The more you can put it on Zoom, it's amazing. It's so easy to do, and it's a different format than YouTube, really, right? And it's better for a Bible study than YouTube would be by itself. We got a question for you from I Am Athanasius. I want to throw at you. If you can hold your thought, bring it in. He says, condolences, Brian, about issues, etc. Making the case, had hoped to meet you there. Looking forward to a virtual presentation. I'm sure he's just, he has condolences that you're unable to meet him, but I think you're probably more sad that you're unable to meet, I would guess, your hero, right?
Albert Mohler's not coming.
Yeah, right.
I have the issues, etc. guys said, well, can you come to the conference in July? And I said, only if Al Mohler's going to be there. And they're like, come on. So then I said, I made him swear a solemn oath that if Al Mohler comes next year, that I could come
go back
and drive
again?
him around. They said, we'll make you a speaker if he comes back. Al Mohler comes back. And I said, I don't want to be a speaker. That's too much work. I just want to come and drive Al Mohler around.
And talk to him. That makes sense.
But who's going to be there? Interesting is this, to replace Al Mohler. He's the guy, he's on with Ben Shapiro on,
oh, interesting. Okay.
Matt, what is his name?
Matt Walsh?
Matt Walsh.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, Matt Walsh
He's
is going to
interesting.
be there.
He's interesting. He's sort of like, yeah, okay. He's like Hemingway famous.
Matt
Hemingway
Walsh and Robert George, who's going to be there. He's a big name.
Okay, I don't know his name, honestly.
And he's the guy who wrote a bunch of books on marriage. He's a
cool.
Catholic conscience theologian. So all the speakers are going to Chicago, and then we're going to live stream the presentations out to the world. So, like, if people want to jump in on that, now they have unlimited capacity.
But do you have to pay for it still the same way? Or
yeah, I think it costs $135.
Yeah. Well,
so
cool.
We'll see how that goes.
Not my world.
But they normally charge like $7,000 to get like the DVDs of the presentations or something crazy.
It's a crazy amount of money.
7,000. Maybe it's not that much.
It's not that bad. But it's a fundraiser for them, and the people who buy it, I think, know that, and that's what it's for. So
now I think they're including you can watch it live and interact, and then watch it anytime on demand. So that's in July. So I thought, it'd be interesting. It's like a dream come true for Todd Wilkins. So if you guys don't know Todd, he's such an introvert. You know, he goes to these conferences and he's like, I don't even think he likes to shake hands. No. And so this is like the perfect conference for Todd. It's like there's a conference with no people here. It's great. It is interesting. We talked about this, how introverts are drawn to new media because, like, you're pretty introverted.
Oh, extremely.
And Wilkins introverted, and all the when you find guys on the radio, like, I'm the exception but maybe I'm not as extroverted as I think I am.
You're pretty extroverted.
but I am on
really
the new media creation. I'm the exception. But you would think like people who are watching you would think that you're an extrovert because you're somewhat bubbly and you're in this big crowd. Mm-hmm. But the advantage is you're actually not in a crowd. You're just completely by
myself and can full control of the whole situation. Yeah. And that's, I don't know if that's why we're drawn to it. It certainly takes time to learn that. And extroverts, in the books I've read about it, often are so busy talking they don't always learn as fast. They're too busy doing what they've been doing to learn the new thing. So you're unique in that. You're driven to something in your curiosity that keeps you from just running the same pattern. It's not that the patterns are bad either. But early adopters are going to be people who are going to be loners by definition, and an introvert's more likely to be that. So, whatever. The best book I ever read on introversion, I didn't read all of it, listened. Quiet is what it's called. And it flips the spectrum a little bit and doesn't talk about intro versus extro. It talks about sensitivity. So what an introvert does is they just feel harder than you do. So, like, if they hear a loud noise, it's louder for them. If they see a bright light, it's brighter for them. If they feel pain, they're just angrier, right? And so you walk into a room where there's an exchange of emotion going on, and there's 50 people there. You're like, ah! It's just too much emotion and information. And so introverts like to show up early and hide in corners and observe because we're trying to just engage the input. And as I've learned that about why I am the way I am has been very helpful in managing the introversion then.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That's why I'm always
That's
early.
why I figured that old men like to drink, what's that nasty beer that everybody?
Pabst or I don't know, Old Milwaukee. There's a bunch of them.
It tastes like it's the really
Red
hoppy
Line.
one.
There's
IPA.
so many.
IPA.
IPAs are not bad beers. What are you talking about?
It's why all the old guys like to drink the IPAs because they're like their tongue doesn't taste anymore. They're like, I need something to
that
just
is kind of true.
pound the taste buds,
Yeah.
So that's how like an introvert they would have more sensitive.
Yeah. It is.
I'm glad to have learned that.
So the book Quiet would be the one to reference, and you could probably get a cliff notes of it. It really is worth looking at it because it does help us. It helps me understand then also like my own children who are, some are more and some are less, but instead of calling them, you're an extrovert, you're an introvert, we just talk about how you respond to inputs, and how you manage them when they come, and do you let them change the way you behave? Are you more afraid because of them? I am. And so I have to learn to overcome that, right? It's just different walks for everybody. And the extrovert is kind of fearless when it comes to people because they just don't get hit by it, but then they can be difficult to persuade for that reason too, actually. Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure what I am actually. I was telling Carrie the other day that I think I'm becoming more of an introvert.
Pastoring can do that to you. I have a buddy of mine. I've talked about this publicly before, and I think you would agree with me. There's a lot of really hurting pastors in the Missouri Synod, men who have tried to do well and have been treated quite shamefully by the church body and by the congregations. And one of them, he's made a good living at it. He's never been kicked out of a parish or anything like that. But he summed it up this way. He said to me, when I went to seminary, I liked people. And I realized today I don't like people and I want to be alone. And that being a pastor did that to me. And when he said that, this was a couple of years ago, I realized kind of the same thing. And I've been making an effort since then to unravel that knot and undo it. And I think I made some headway, but it's tough though when you're just getting hurt all the time, right? And when you just get attacked constantly. And conservative Missouri Synod parish pastor, especially if he's white, he's like the enemy of everybody right now. There's nobody who's going to speak well of him.
It's strange, isn't it? Because there's a hardness of the devil loves to harden our conscience towards those in authority.
Truth.
And but there's this thing too. I mean, this goes back to what we're talking about with how seriously do you treat yourself? And there's a way that, I've seen this danger in the pastor because pastors recognize what a kind of fantastically high holy office we have. At least we should. If you have a sense of the office, it's up here. And if you have a sense of your own sinfulness, it's down here. And there's an incongruity there. And it's supposed to be there. But there's a danger that you either try to pull down the office to be like even with yourself, and that's going to be a lot of like the church growth guys and stuff. It's like they want to diminish the office. So
yeah, I'm Pastor Jimmy. Just call me Jimmy. I'm just like you.
Right. But then there's the other thing where like, if you insult me, you insult Jesus. It's like this exaltation of the person. So there's a temptation that pastors are under. And every single person is going to be in the middle of that thing too. They're either going to be like, so every member will tell you this story. If you just should get them talking about it, they're going to be like, there was a moment when I realized that the pastor should not be put on a pedestal. So now that's a truism, right? But there's a moment, every Christian, every Lutheran especially has that moment where they saw their pastor sin. And it's either a sin of neglect or a sin of whatever, whatever they did. And now the devil comes in right at that point and starts to tempt them. So I think Kleinig said this, or maybe I picked it up from something. He said, you just got to ask yourself, why has the devil let you see your pastor's sin? Why? I mean, let me say it like this.
Why is God?
Why has Jesus let you see your pastor's sin?
Right.
We know why the devil has done it. But why has Jesus let you see your pastor's sin? And the answer is not so that you can badmouth him, not so that you can talk bad about him, so that you can pray for him and so that you can help him. I mean, that's why the Lord lets you see anybody's sin, why he gives you this burden of seeing someone. That's the
reason we're supposed to confess our sins to each other, is to bear the burdens with each other. I'm convinced the language about bearing with each other in Scripture is not about putting up with being sick. It's really about forgiving the sinfulness of each other as we learn to live with each other and as we keep doing the same things to each other, because some of it's just our wicked personalities and tendencies. which doesn't mean that the father can't keep the family in order. He should, right? And that's what authorities are for, and that's what the pastor's for. It's what the man of the house is for. It's what the governor's for. It's what the mayor's, every head, right? I guess one of the questions I have a little bit then is how are pastors to be fathers when they're not allowed to be anything but pastors?
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm not talking about fathers in the family. I'm talking about father in the church, though, a little bit. You know, exercising the authority role of the pastor has been a tenuous thing at best in the Missouri Synod for a while. And I'm not with the guys who are like, bishops, that's the answer. No, you're not listening or watching if that's what you're saying. But I am concerned about the anti-authoritarian, really, it's a antinomian streak when it's anti-authority that runs in us, and it's a counter to the pastoral office. One of my favorite hymns, I have too many of these, but I always sing it, have it sung when I'm installed, which has been too many times as well. But it's God of the Prophets. God of the Prophets, bless the prophet's son. Yeah, and it's about pastors. And there are 3 lines. One is about pastors being prophets. One is about pastors being priests. One is about pastors being kings. And I've always thought, man, we're not even listening when we sing this. Otherwise, we'd be angry about it because we just called the pastor the king, which is what shepherd and pastor actually means. Pastors can't be kings. We can't say that in English. But I think we're missing something there. We're missing something in king. We've lost what a good king is to begin with. Like that we think kings are all bad. A king is a man who speaks and you follow. He's your king. If he speaks and you follow, he's your king, right? Your father, no, your mayor, I don't care. So pastors should be kings, the right kind. And the rest of the verse is about not a jeweled sword, right? But the love of Christ, words of God, all that. But to recapture the good of authority, this is everyone who's harping about third use of the law, everyone who's harping about antinomianism, like what it is, this is it. We're anti-authority, which means we're anti-creation itself. And on the other side of that is God, right? On the side of the 4th commandment is third, and God's there. We want to take him out. So go ahead, Brian.
This gets back to this business of authority. So this is the right place to talk about the 2 kingdoms, because the 2 kingdoms are really just the 2 different kinds of authority that the Lord has given. So there's the authority of the sword made out of metal, and then there's the authority of the sword made out of paper. And so I think that's when 2 kingdoms I do not think is helpful, except in this way, is to say there's 2 different swords that are wielded, and so the king is
2 different powers.
Right, 2 different powers, and so the king, the pastor as king in the place, wields the power of God's word. So that's a different kind of authority. And we only understand authority.
It's a different kind of sword. It's a different kind of sword. It's a sword, though. It is a sword.
It's a sword. So we understand authority only with the sword of the state, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So because we don't have that, we're like, look, the pastor can't just boss people around. Oh, you can actually. The pastor can. That's what a sermon is.
Yeah.
It's bossing people around, but it's a different kind of bossing people around than what the state does when it says you can't go to
not if you go to an ELCA church
without a mask.
Not if you go to an ELCA church.
Hey, you brought that up, not me.
Hey,
so I'm looking
time.
at the chat here. Aren't you paying attention to the chat?
I've got to here. Yep, I got it for you.
Monica's thing.
Yep, it's right here, ready to go. Monica says, pastors, maybe this is touchy, but how do you see the future of both Lutheranism, of both Lutheran higher education and seminary education with both the virus and the reality of the current future economy? You go first.
The schools were right on the edge. So
yeah.
Lutheran education was hanging on by a thread when the economy was roaring. There's just not enough margin. And I think practically it's because of healthcare.
Well said.
So as the and we
you hate black colleges and you don't like children and want them to learn about Jesus, Brian.
So
that's what people say, man. I'm throwing it at you right now. Yeah, I'm with you though, but that's what they say.
So it was always the only way the Lutheran schools could survive was by charity, by claiming that they were a mission of the church, and I think they are, but they weren't started that way. They were never started as missions. They were started as, hey, we got a bunch of kids and we want them to grow up to be wise and not to be programmed by the progressive stuff. So it wasn't started as an outreach sort of thing, but so it's a very difficult thing. And for our Concordias, I just heard last week that like Concordia Irvine had to, I think they let go 40 staff.
Oh,
Everyone took a pay
golly.
cut.
Wow.
And this is coming to all the Concordias now. I mean, they were hanging on by a
A
thread.
thread. Yeah.
They were living by charity. So they were not, their income and their expenses were not, and they were trying to keep up with these small liberal arts colleges, which is
Without
difficult.
actually being distinct.
Right. So
Just like you go and you pay more for what you get everywhere else. That was their model. It's just
so
insane.
top to bottom, the only place it seems like that you can actually have margins that can actually sustain an organization is at preschool, because there you're not competing with the state stuff for now. I mean,
right.
So there we have some space because it's all private, and so we don't have to compete with the public space. But it's very, very, very difficult now.
Because preschools and COVID are like made for each other.
And this goes all the way to the top, to the seminary. I've been imagining a lot, like how it would be to start a Lutheran Bible college.
Hey, dude, I've been on it for a year here. It's my goal.
So,
I got the goal. So SMPs are our path, and we got to do it together. We got to build them all over the nation. Every city, area, region should have its own place for initially training the pastors by just training them with the pastors that are there. And then we have to have some way to test outside the region. That's going to be the real trick, so that we don't have people who are made in the image of the region and set up these kind of attacks against each other, right? Become different bodies. So we have to like have a vicarage or something where you get sent away to get into something else. But local, man.
I was thinking about that. If you get the guys right out of high school, you train them up, you give them 4 years of Bible study, but then they're like 23 years old, and you're like, you're not old enough to be a pastor. So,
but I disagree, because here we've said pastor means one thing. It means you run a parish by yourself, and that's nonsense. The Bible has never taught that.
So that's true enough. So this is the point, is say, I want you to go with this guy. I want you to go this, or I want you to go for 3 years to Cambodia or whatever.
Hey, I'm okay with saying I want to ordain you and have you just lead a Bible study on the weekends and do a small group thing with a couple of the young married couples, and you don't get paid, but that's okay. You can help with the sacrament. You preach in Advent. Like, why do you have to? Why does the pastoral office have to be small business management? I think we limit the number of guys that can be good in the office, and we force them to try to do what they're not good at. And then we have the guys that are not good at the stuff they should be good at either, right? So anyway, a lot of it is just not recognizing the nuance of the individual, and that their skill set maybe isn't made to do that.
Yes,
job.
That's true. Yeah, you have a cookie cutter kind of thing. But I was just thinking, I mean, how much better of a pastor would I be if instead of spending 4 years getting an undergrad degree in university studies?
My English degree was helpful. Mine's been very, very fruitful.
I mean, I suppose, I would have had a lit degree, except for I didn't have enough PE credits.
No way. What on earth? What school was this?
University of New Mexico. Well, I went 1 year at CSU in Colorado State, and I did first semester wildlife biology, and then I switched to mechanical engineering.
But didn't have enough PE to get your English degree.
I did scuba diving. So my first semester at college was my highest grade I got a B in scuba diving. I showed up every class. And then I went down to move back home to Albuquerque, and I enrolled in UNM, and I was doing mechanical engineering at UNM for a semester. And then like my crisis of conscience hit, and I was trying to sort out what church to go to and everything else like this. So I dropped out of school. In fact, right before I dropped out of school, I went into the engineering office and I was like, I'm going to change my major. And they're like, oh, from ME to EE to CE to, different engineering. I was like, literature. And like, why did you just take the lit classes, but you can stay in our school? I guess I had like a good SAT score.
Yeah, right. So they allowed you.
So then I dropped out of school. And I was dropping out, man. I was done with school. This whole thing's a sham. And I went to backpack around Israel, and I was going to travel the world.
That's a whole other thing, the sham. I want to touch on Rob jumping in here to say he's calling you and I both out. Authority of the office and your vocation is in the church, guys. No, it's not. That's all I got to that one.
Well,
My
then-
vocation
so
is,
it's-
I
I mean-
have more than one vocation. I have more than one vocation.
That's
It's just,
right. So you bear, every person has both swords, and we wield it in three
right.
realms.
Are
and
you-
in the state, it's the sword of the
Right.
of power, and in the church, it's the sword of the word, and in the home, it's this wild. That's why the home is so difficult. It's this wild mix of both swords.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm absolving my children, and sometimes I'm telling them to sit in their room.
right? But I'm pretty confident that the pastor has to do that too. He has to tell people to sit in their room. Like, no, you don't behave that way. That's wrong. That's not Christian. And that would be the authority of which office? I'm not going to try to parse it like that. That's nonsense. What I want to know is this, Rob. So, Rob, how's it going with the office in the home, your job as pastor of your family? If you're going to come out here and attack us publicly as pastors and tell us we're out of our vocation for talking about the theology that we always talk about, I just want to know. So how's the home life right now? Is it really good? Are all of your children Christians? Did you read the Bible to them regularly and teach them? If you did, then tell me my place and I'll repent. But otherwise, maybe tend to your own. Because I think that what's going on in our churches has a lot more to do with what pastors, not what pastors are not doing. There's a lot to do with what laity are not doing in their homes. So don't tell me that I got to stop telling you to do stuff in your home until you're going to go and teach your kids to be Christians and not have them, I don't know if it's your kids, but it's our kids, ransacking cities. You want me to sit here and let the cities be ransacked and not point out that it's wrong and tell me that my job as a Lutheran pastor is to shut up? I'm sorry. I just don't see that in my theology, Brian. Am I off base? I know I'm angry, so of course I get a little heated.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there some history? I didn't get all that from Rob's thing. But
oh, man. I don't know. Well, the conversation this morning, there's been some conversation about how we are not supposed to, you and I, pastors, should not be talking about politics. Right?
Oh.
And so, we're out of our vocation. Our vocation's in the church. We're only supposed to teach about Jesus. And I'm just going to keep calling it a lie. It's a lie. I don't even know what it means. Only teach about Jesus.
We got to remember that there's a lot of people who are going to want to talk about politics. So we should remember this. There's always going to be a temptation. Remember the three estates business. The state is the least important of all of them, but the state has this Napoleon complex. So the state's always going to want to, the conversation about state stuff is always going to want to draw us in. So I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying we just always got to check ourselves because we should talk about politics, but we should also remember that politics matter the least.
The least, right? That's why we should talk about them. It's because they don't matter.
Remember,
we
you
should
don't
not
matter.
We should not be afraid of them.
Right, that's right.
They are
that's
what they
right.
are. It's just it's in its place. Who cares, right? And that's where when you're going to get mad at me in a show that's just about hanging out and talking about everything, and tell me that I'm not allowed to talk about politics on it. I said, what? Anyway, super chat from Ryan says this: because you are worth it, the worker is worth its wages. It's both of us, by the way. Though, how do you put a value on truth? I'm fairly certain truth is worth more than $15. So indeed.
It's not worth less.
I am Athanasius, that's right. Says Lutherans, loving the conversation, hypothesis, Lutherans, this should be possessive. Lutherans' possessive relationship to authority in the church is challenging because we overreact to papist abuses. It was amplified by a guy named Stephan and the Stephanite controversy for the Missouri Synod.
This is very interesting. So we were trying to trace this. I was with a friend of mine who's he used to be an Anglican priest. And he was talking about how the Anglicans have a strong understanding of spiritual authority. And he left the Anglican church because he realized that it was doing him spiritual damage to be under the authority of a heretic. Now imagine, so the sense that vocation provides like an umbrella of spiritual protection.
Mm-hmm.
We've almost totally lost that idea. I mean, it's there in the Fourth Commandment in the Large Catechism, but we just don't have this sense that that the pastor, just for example, the pastor is the shield that protects his flock, so that as the devil is shooting arrows at his people, the Lord is redirecting them to the pastor. And so you have
to every authority. It's to every authority. The authority is there to be the one that takes the bullet for the one who's not an authority.
And there's something there with I think even just to consider the authority that a grandparent wields in their prayers for their grandkids.
Yeah, amen to that.
so that they're in family also, and to sort of start to enlist the grandparents in spiritual warfare to recognize that this dynamic is what's happening there. But we've lost that, and we were reflecting on if this could be some of the trauma of the abuse of authority that came back from the Reformation. Now, I'm not sure. I haven't pressed that all the way, because Luther was at the same time, he was strong on office and strong on authority.
Yeah,
and yet he was also really strong on what happens when that authority above you is abused.
It's not like the medieval abuses were any different than the ancient ones in terms of governments and false religions and Christianity as it is, or as it was in the ancient Old Testament times, being kind of thrown to the wind from time to time and not really clearly in charge of things. So I don't know that this is a reaction against papistic authority per se. Certainly Lutherans have latched onto that in America, and America is founded, the United States are founded as a rejection of king. Like, it's a rejection of the fourth commandment that founds the civilization. I think the seeds of its own demise are bound to be there eventually. At the same time, it built a constitution that says, let's not demise ourselves. So I'm bound to that one myself. But not without acknowledging that to some extent, I theologically must be a monarchist before I am a capitalist or a Republican of any kind. And I don't use that as a political term, but as an intellectual term. Republican meaning limited representative voting from those who actually know what's going on and have proven the ability to show that they know what's going on, as opposed to those who don't know what's going on and just shout. But biblically, I'm a monarchist. I have a king, and long live him. He will not die.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I'm a monarchist. And yet the world and my country lives in recognition that bad men make bad monarchs, and now we have this constitution thing, which I'm born into it. What am I supposed to do? I didn't choose it.
It is interesting that Jesus is Lord is not just a confession of faith. I mean, it is a political agenda. That's why the martyrs were killed.
Yeah, right. All they had to do was say Caesar was king. That's all they had to do. They wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they said, we'll pay taxes to Caesar. We'll worship Caesar. He's just not king the same way Jesus is. And so, insofar as I would have any politics now, they're only politics insofar as I am a sworn envoy from my liege from another dimension. So yeah, I'm going to talk about how you should keep your neighborhood clean. Don't poop on the street. Make sure people don't steal. Yeah. Because that's just
a problem
wise.
Up there in Rockford?
No, but New York, I hear, LA. Yeah, I've heard these places.
True. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. I don't want it to get here. And I think we should
talk
about
it. It's a thing in Austin. It's public camping is allowed, and this is a big thing.
Yeah, I told someone you moved there recently, and they bemoaned it. They said, "Oh, poor Brian." I said, Texas ain't that bad.
I love it.
I think if Texas ever rises again, they'll take Austin back.
I'm not allowed to say anything about that.
No, I know. Hey, you're so well placed.
The city council just voted last night or this week to the police are understaffed. They're freezing the funding and all this sort of thing for the police, and they're making all these moves. But you can only do that because the governor will say, "Okay, well, we'll help take care of you." But
not all the cities have those options. So it must be nice to live in Texas.
It is nice.
I want to start a town. I really do. I want to start a town right here. I'm just outside the city limits. I want to start a town. And I want the motto of the town to be a little piece of Texas just south of Illinois, or just south of Wisconsin. Just south of Wisconsin.
There you go.
And actually, we got it. We just don't have the weather. But this county out here is so beautiful. There's so much good county here.
Do you know the Mormons did this? They went down to Mexico and they started like their own cities.
Totally makes sense. There. Yeah, they're down there deep. They have to defend themselves against the cartels. Listen to Joe Rogan interviewing Ed Manifesto, who's this like ex-military, former military cop Mexico, and then now private security American, private businessman. But he follows Mexican politics and oh my gosh, that's what's going to be here if we're not smart. And it really is like, it's gang warfare in the streets. It's terrifying what's going on in Mexico. And so these Mormon communities, like, they are armed military cities that don't let you come in unless you have a reason to go, right? I mean, trade and all this, right? There's reasons, but They're not like just open communities.
My dad is researching them because he wants to buy peaches from them for my brother's
That's
peach whiskey.
funny. That's funny. Well, I'm sure they have good peaches.
My brother played football for the for New Mexico Military Institute, and one of the teams they played, they drove down to Mexico. And you're driving through the desert, and you come over this hill, and there's just like, it looks like a Midwestern town from the 50s with all these green fields. Like,
just sitting there.
What is this place?
They're wasting water on the grass, apparently. What are you doing?
I don't know anything about it. So.
Mexico came out of something else, though. It wasn't just Mexico.
I can't remember, but did we finish this conversation about the seminaries?
No.
Because there's been some stuff about that, you know? I mean, Dr. Rast was called to be president of St. Louis, and he didn't take the call. Wowzers. And so he stayed at Fort Wayne, and everyone was looking at that. At least everyone as I was talking to was like, okay, here's the beginning of the end of the two seminaries, and now...
I would agree with that. Here's the beginning and the end of the two seminaries. I just don't think they're going to be here. I'd love them. This is not me wishfully thinking. I would like them to stay. I like their libraries at the very least. I just don't think it's going to make it. And I mean, if I'm Ras, and I don't want to be the guy who gets blamed for closing both of them.
Right.
Now, I don't know what he's thinking. I have no idea what he's thinking. He does not talk to me. I don't know the guy well. We've talked like 4 times in life. But if I'm looking at that right now and I'm at his age, it's like, why? Why would I make that move? It's the same problems. I mean, I've already got the problems. Right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like it because there's always this idea that like Fort Wayne was like a baby seminary and St. Louis was the grown-up seminary.
It's true.
And that would, if you move from one to the other, that feeds into that myth. But that's an old myth.
Yeah, it's identity politics, Brian.
Now, I think what's interesting with education is that, like I told Hannah, who's in college now, my daughter, and I said, if they're going to do online education, she's studying nutrition. They're going to do online education next year. I said, why? Take this money that I'm giving you for tuition and just go and find the person that knows the stuff the best and say, my dad told me that instead of spending the money on tuition, that I should give half of it to you to tutor me.
Yeah, I'm into that. Apprenticeship.
And you have this sort of this kind of blooming of education so that people who are really good at teaching. Now, this is an amazing thing that if I'm good at teaching the Bible, I normally would have, you know, the limitations of people who live around me or whatever can come, or people who read the book or whatever. But now with the technology, you can have 10,000 people come to a Sunday school class, come to a Bible class or whatever. So the sort of democratization of education through technology,
it's the flattening of communication, Mm-hmm.
Yep. Is something that is really going to reshape education.
Now,
we should probably be on the front of that instead of on the tail end of it.
I completely agree. I've also got the end of the world scenario in my head, though, where, I mean, I think this is real. I think that it's potential that in 50 years, not everyone's got internet or the same internet or the same access to the internet, the same speeds of the internet, same amount of data you can download from the internet. And the danger is that if we fully give ourselves over to believing that this is the only real medium out there, which is what the pioneers of it have often said and shouted, get away from paper, move to digital. If we do that, and then there is a tax on the internet, like you have lost your ability to communicate, right? And that's why the local stuff still remains. I'm with you. It's both. It's absolutely both. And the LCMS has sat a long time and not done one. I don't think we've done the other either, frankly. We just sat. And now we're gonna pay for boiling in the water with the rest of America and not taking our own prophets seriously. We've had prophets, we've had good men, we've had good people and Christians, right? It's not like there's nobody who cares. But as a unit, we have boiled in the pot. And if you don't like me saying it, I'm sorry. I'm just not gonna boil in the pot anymore. And that doesn't mean go out and start a war. It means go out and preach harder. Harder and more truly. But my fear then, Brian, with your thing is like, you just can't go all digital, which is where our new podcast, Talking to White Noise, is about. I talked about that earlier today already, but you want to talk about Everbook some right now?
Yeah, I suppose. No, I mean, this is why I've got all these books. I think this is important. I mean, just the physical thing of the book. And you and I have made huge shifts to kind of manage our own thinking via analog. Via Everbook and everything else like this. Samples should be arriving sometime in the next few days. This is great.
Yeah, so the actual hard leather-bound piece of work, and this is what the podcast, we talked about that more directly, the story of the guy who you met and the randomness of it, but there you go. He likes the design. He didn't want to work on your design because of your straps, but now we got an even cooler idea. Like, there's all that stuff. That's in the podcast. Wrestling with breaking through the white noise. I mean, that's don't you get tired of not knowing what to think and who you can trust and having someone tell you a different story? And at some point, the Bible's true.
Right. Because so we always should have known this, because again, knowledge is accumulative, but wisdom is not. Wisdom is one of these things that's reborn in every generation. So wisdom and discernment, that is now the value of that, because it used to be, I mean, if you had a lot of books, you were up here because that was a supply and demand sort of thing. But now everybody has every book. You just have Google Books on your phone. Everybody has every book. And so the supply of information is it's made it very cheap, but
it's overwhelming.
But now so now it's a question of wisdom or of discernment, and that is the rarity and becoming more and more rare. So anyway,
is there a market for wisdom? There's a market for practicality.
In some ways, it doesn't matter. But the answer is yes.
Is wisdom practicality, or is it something different?
Well, it could be. I mean, there's earthly wisdom and spiritual wisdom. The Bible talks about both. And earthly wisdom is how to apply the 10 Commandments to what's right in front of you. Spiritual wisdom is to know that salvation is in the weakness of God.
Grace. Yeah, sure.
And so the practical wisdom is great. I mean, I think so. At some point, if we can teach the 10 Commandments to the kids, they are going to be so valuable for corporations. Because you got
to get it in a way that they can absorb it, though. That's just it. If we can teach the 10 Commandments to the kids, we've been saying that for 500 years.
You know how? I mean, it's going to be such a huge thing. It's like imagine this. Imagine there's a company like Procter and Gamble, and they're going to make something like, I don't know, like diapers for babies. Sure. And all these scientists are trying to figure out something, and there's a Christian who knows that there's a difference between a boy and a girl, and they're like the only person that actually knows that difference. Well, that's going to help them produce products, and the Christians are going to be the only ones who know the difference.
Oh, I think some of the immigrants from India will understand too. There's a lot, but you're right though. Those who believe in the law, those who believe there is a design, not those who believe in chaos. The thing is, we have friends who are not Christians, like you and I have allies in life who are not Christians, who believe in a lawful society, right? Christians are valuable because the wisdom of the cross enables us to navigate a lawful society with grace. And in that way, become a benefit and a blessing to that society. But a lawful society is a benefit and a blessing in and of itself. Our problem right now is we have a lawless society. And I'm going to go back to King George and say we founded ourselves on being one. And they said, but wait, we won't be. And we wrote the Constitution. And as far as we go in rejecting all authorities as a spiritual fallout of rejecting King George, bad as he was, is going to continue to fight with the physical rejection of authority in philosophy, science, nature, politics, all that kind of stuff that's leading to this chaos, this worship of chaos that we see right now. And our task as Christians is to be among those who stand up and say law, not chaos, but also those who do it with, again, this modicum of mercy that nobody else has access to, a special sword.
Yes, That's right. I don't know if I could say what you said, because I'm not sure I understand it or if I agree with it, but I'm going to take it into advisement. But that last point stands for sure. I mean, so we have one of the reasons why we can preach the law is because we have the gospel.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the gospel, if you don't have the mercy and grace of God, then it all sounds so mean that you just got to run from it.
The sad thing is it sounds mean anyway. Like if they're an unbeliever, they're going to think you're mean no matter what. Like if they're not converted, they're just going to hate you. There's nothing you can do about that one. That's why the smiling and laughing at yourself is so important. You have to realize they're not mad at you, they're mad at Jesus.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I say that all the time. I'm like, look, I'm just, don't shoot the messenger.
Just a messenger.
I've been preaching this more and more and teaching Bible studies. I said, look, you guys, I know you guys don't believe me. I wouldn't believe it myself unless it was right here on the page. So look,
that's exactly right.
Look at the page. Look at what the page says. It's God be praised that he gave us the written word.
Mm. Indeed. Let us
I thought
attend
this
to
was
it.
a Saturday morning show.
It was. It's over.
It's
You came
Saturday
on. I know.
afternoon.
And I'm moving. I still have a mess to deal with, and I got church in 3 hours and 45 minutes. So, that's a good point. You're done. I'm ready to go too.
I came on. It says Fisk has been streaming for 17 hours.
No.
What?
Yeah. No,
And
not
then
quite.
2 more.
Not quite. But we're going to go ahead and say thank you, Brian, for being on. Thank you all for sitting around extra this week. Of course, again, Patreon is always the way to do it, unless you like those, what are they called again? Super Chats. Super Chats are good. We're going to go to music and just say, don't wallow in the muck. Rock on. We'll catch you soon.
Was that worth $1? Click the Patreon link in the show notes to sign up. Pretty please?